Good morning. Today we will going to study Accounting 1. Good morning. Today is the first day we learn financial accounting. The first chapter we will learn today is Introduction to Accounting. On this chapter, we are able to learn 1.1 Definition of Accounting, 1.2 Users of accounting information, 1.3 Differences between bookkeeping and accounting, 1.4 Branches of accounting, 1.5 Types of business ownerships, 1.6 Types of business activities, 1.7 Types of financial statements, 1.8 Professional accounting bodies in Malaysia, 1.9 Potential career in accounting. Definition of accounting. Accounting is the language of business. It is a process of identifying, recording, classifying, summarizing, communicating, and interpreting the results of business or economic transactions to users in order for them to make better decisions. The accounting process includes the bookkeeping function. The financial information that users need depends upon the kinds of decision they make. There are two broad groups of users of financial information. 1. Internal users. 2. External users. Internal users of accounting information are managers who plan, organize, and run the business. These include directors of companies, managers, and internal auditor. External users are individuals and organizations outside a company who want financial information about company. The two most common types of external users are investors and creditors. The government agencies also the external users. What are the others too? Please find out by yourself. Why they need accounting information. 1. Management use accounting information for made decision making, planning, organizing, and controlling operations. Management provides internal information to help them make decisions about their companies. 2. Internal auditors use accounting information for ensuring the management system and the financial system of a company comply with accounting standards. Internal users needs detailed information on a timely basis. Accounting information is used by them. Why external users need accounting information. 1. Investors use accounting information for assessing the company's profitability, assessing the amount of dividends paid out to shareholders, and deciding as to buy more shares or dispose the shares they have. 2. Creditors, suppliers, and bankers use accounting information for assessing the ability of a business to repay loan. 3. Inland Revenue Board use accounting information for determining the amount of tax to be collected. The information needs of external user vary considerably. Accounting information is used by them. What is the difference between bookkeeping and accounting? We can see the differences in three aspects. 1. Definition. Bookkeeping, a process of recording, in chronological order, the daily transaction of business entity. Part of accounting. Definition. Accounting, a process of recording, classing, summarizing, reporting, analyzing and interpreting the financial condition and performance of a business. Accounting is an information system. 2. Scope. Bookkeeping, a preliminary process of accounting. Accounting. Accounting is a more extensive and thorough process beyond bookkeeping. 3. Person in charge, bookkeeping, accounting clerk. Accounting, accountant. Question. Define what is accounting. At the end of the lesson, students are able to define accounting, name out the users of accounting information and differences between bookkeeping and accounting. See you next lesson. Thank you. Good morning, students. Hope all of you are fine and happy being here. We are going to continue subtopics 1.4, 1.5 and 1.6. Are you ready? We start with subtopic 1.4, branches of accounting. We can divide it into 6 branches of accounting. That is financial accounting, management accounting, cost accounting, auditing, public sector accounting and taxation. Financial accounting provides economic and financial information to external users. Managerial accounting provides economic and financial information to internal users. Who are internal users and external users? We have learned in the video before. So, everyone should refer to previous learning. For cost accounting and auditing accounting, please find and complete your own notes. For subtopic 1.5, we will learn form of business entities. A business is normally organized as one of 3 different forms: sole proprietorship, partnership, and limited company. In the following table, I briefly describe each form with 6 aspects. Make sure you understand and can clearly explain each of these aspects. There are 3 different types of business activities that are operated for profit. There are services, manufacturing and merchandising. Each type of business activities has unique characteristics. Services businesses provide services rather than products to customers. Example, Mass, Marylander, Kmpk MLAU. Manufacturing businesses change raw or basic inputs into products that are sold to customers. Example, Gardenia, Intel. Merchandising businesses, they purchase inventories from other businesses, such as manufacturers, and resell the inventories to customers. Example, Giant, Tesco, Save. Describe types of business activities. In this lecture, you should be able to identify branches of accounting, the characteristics of types of business ownerships, and also can describe types of business activities. Thank you and see you next lesson. Good morning, everyone. Hope all of you fine and happy today. We are going to continue subtopic 1.7, Types of Financial Statement. The accounting reports that provide this information are called financial statement. The basic types of financial statements as stated in MFRS 101 are as follows. 1. A statement of profit or loss / the statement of comprehensive income for the period. 2. A statement of financial position as at the end of the period. 3. A statement of owner's equity for the period. 4. A statement of cash flows for the period. These statements provide relevant financial data internal and external users. Companies prepare 4 financial statements. There are income statement or profit or loss, owner's equity statement, financial position or balance sheet, and statement of cash flows. This is an example of a financial statement that is an income statement and owner equity statement for services. This is an example of a financial statement that is an owner equity statement and financial position or balance sheet. This is an example of a financial statement that is an financial position or balance sheet and statement of cash flows. Students, be sure to carefully examine the format and content of each statement. What information should be in the profit or loss statement or income statement? 1. Reports the revenues and expenses for a specific period of time. 2. Lists revenues first, followed by expenses. 3. Shows net income, or net loss. 4. Does not include investment and withdrawal transactions between the owner and the business in measuring net income. What information should be in the owner's equity statement? 1. Reports the changes in owner's equity for a specific period of time. 2. The time period is the same as that covered by the income statement. What information should be in statement of financial position or balance sheet? 1. Reports the assets, liabilities, and owner's equity at a specific date. 2. Lists assets at the top, followed by liabilities and owner's equity. 3. Total assets must equal total liabilities and owner's equity. 4. Is a snapshot of the company's financial condition at a specific moment in time, usually the month end or year end. What information should be in statement of cash flows? Information on the cash receipts and payments for a specific period of time. Answers the following. A. Where did cash come from? B. What was cash used for? C. What was the change in the cash balance? An example of statement of profit or loss for a service business. An example of statement of profit or loss for a merchandise business. An example of statement of owner's equity. An example of statement of financial position. An example of a statement of cash flows. Today we have studied all the financial statements that should be prepared by a business. Match each of the following statement with its proper term. A. Income statement / profit or loss. B. Statement of cash flow. C. Statement of owner's equity. 1. A summary of the changes in owner's equity that have occurred during a specific period of time, such as a month or a year. 2. A summary of the cash receipts and cash payments for a specific period of time, such as a month or a year. 3. A summary of the revenue and expenses for a specific period of time, such as a month or a year. Today we have studied all the financial statements that should be prepared by a business. So, you are able to name out all the financial statement and be sure to carefully examine the format and content of each statement. Thank you and see you next lesson. Good morning students, hope all of you are fine. Today we are going to continue about subtopics 1.8 and 1.9. There are three professional accounting bodies in Malaysia as discussed below. 1. Malaysian Accounting Standards Board, MASB. 2. Malaysian Institute of Accountants, MIA. 3. Malaysian Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Kmpk. What is the main function of MASB? Established under the Financial Reporting Act 1997. The main functions and authorities are to 1. Issue new accounting standards, Malaysian Financial Reporting Standards, MFRS. 2. Review, revise or adopt existing accounting standards. 3. Issue statements of principles for financial reporting. 4. Sponsor or undertake development of possible accounting standards. 5. Develop a conceptual framework for the purpose of evaluating current and proposed accounting standards. What is the main function of MIA? Established under the Accountants Act, 1967. The main functions of MIA are to 1. Determine the qualifications for members. 2. Provide training and continuing professional education to existing and potential practitioners. 3. Control the accounting practice in Malaysia. What is the main function of Kmpk? The Malaysian Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Kmpk, was formed as a professional body in 1958. The main functions of Kmpk are to 1. Advance the theory and practice of accountancy in all of its aspects. 2. Recruit, educate, train and assess a body of members skilled in these areas. 3. Maintain high standards of practice and professional conduct by all its members. 4. Develop the accounting profession. Why is accounting such a popular major and career? There are a lot of jobs. Potential career opportunities in accounting are 1. Public accounting. Careers in auditing, taxation, and management consulting serving the general public. 2. Private accounting. Careers in industry working in cost accounting, budgeting, accounting information systems, and taxation. 3. Governmental accounting. Careers with the IRS, the FBI, the SEC, public colleges and universities, and in state and local governments. 4. Forensic accounting. Uses accounting, auditing, and investigative skills to conduct investigations into theft and fraud. Answer this question. 1. State professional accounting bodies in Malaysia. 2. Explain the career opportunities in accounting. At the end of this lesson, you are able to explain accounting bodies in Malaysia and identify potential career in public or private sector. We have finished studying for Chapter 1. It is hoped that all students will be able to review and read from other sources for Chapter 1. Next we will study Chapter 2. So all students need to prepare for Chapter 2.
Thank you.
Good morning. How are you today? Are you ready to learn new chapter today? Today we learn Chapter 2, Basic Accounting Concepts.
On this chapter, students are able to learn 2.1 Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, 2.2 Accounting Concepts, 2.3 Accounting Equation, we are learn at tutorial. 2.4 Double Entry System, we are learn at tutorial.
Do you know about is GAAP? Financial accounting practices governed by generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP. The principles can change over time to reflect changes in the business environment and demands of the users. The different opinions between the accountants can be solved by referring to GAAP. The principles govern conventions, concepts, regulations, procedures and the guidelines of the standards. GAAP's objective is to make information in the financial statements relevant to the users, reliable for the users, and comparable in differentiating entities. All financial statements comply to GAAP. The importance of GAAP are standards that are generally accepted and universally practiced. These standards indicate how to report economic events. In this chapter, I'm emphasize accounting assumption, accounting principles and accounting constraints. It is through this emphasis on the why of accounting as well as the how that you will gain and understand of the full significance of accounting. The accounting assumption consists of 1. Economic entity. 2. Monetary measurement. 3. Accounting period. 4. Going concern. The accounting principles are historical cost, objectivity, full disclosure, consistency, revenue recognition, expense recognition, matching principle. The accounting constraints are materiality, fair value measurement. The individual business unit is the economy entity for which economic data are needed. The economy entity must be first identified, so that the accountant can determine which economic data should be analyzed, recorded, and summarized in reports. So, what economic entity? Economic entity is about the activities of an entity should be kept separated and distinct from other economic entities such as the owner of the entity, suppliers, and customers. Different entities need to be evaluated separately. Owner and business are two separate entities. The transaction of business entity should be accounted for in business's books of records. The example of economic entity. The owner of a business bought a car for his wife's personal use by using money from the business operations. He recorded the purchase as asset in his business book. It is correct or not? Solution. The business does not follow the economic entity concept. The bid in the business as drawings because the transaction was related to the owner and not to the business. The owner is considered as a separate entity from the business. Monetary measurement means we should report all the business transactions or events in monetary measurement. Money is the common denominator in business. Transactions and events are recorded in monetary units. Assumes a stable monetary unit. Examples of monetary units are the ringgit in Malaysia and the dollar in the United States. Accounting period means we can be divided into specific periods such as months, quarters and years. Reporting period covered by financial statements. Also known as financial year.
From situation below, answer the question. Example. A company was formed on January 1, 2019. It closes its accounts on 31st of December. Every year. Explain the concept involved. Conclusion. It follows the time period concept. It is a normal practice for financial statements to be prepared annually by a business. The preparation of companies' financial reports should consider assumption that The enterprise or business will continue in operation long enough to carry out its existing objectives instead of being closed or sold. The business is assumed to remain in operation for the foreseeable future. Most firm-mass resources such as supplies, land, buildings, and equipment are acquired to be used by the business in its normal operations, not to be sold. It is reasonable to use historical cost for a going concern entity unless evidences suggest the business will be liquidated. Example for going concern. The manager of Hotel Czar assumed that the hotel might be out of business at any time, based on the current bad economy condition. He suggested Hotel Czar reported its assets at the value different from their original costs. The values are estimated at their values in the second-hand market. Does the manager do the right thing? Solution. The suggestion should be rejected because it is not consistent with the going concern concept. The assets must be at their original costs because the business is assumed to be operated for an indefinite life.
For each of the following case, discuss the accounting principles involved. 1. The owner of Cyberzone paid his home electricity bills using the business money and recorded it in the utility account of his business. 2. A company was formed on the 1st of July 2019. It closes its accounts on the 30th of June every year.
At the end of this lesson study are able to describe about GAAP and describe the accounting assumptions that is economic entity, period, and going concern. All students are required to read for accounting principles for the next lesson. Thank you.
Good morning. How are you today? Last video we learned the accounting assumptions. Today we are going to continue the accounting principles and the accounting constraints. The accounting principles are historical cost, objectivity, full disclosure, consistency, revenue recognition, and expenses recognition, matching principle. The accounting constraints are materiality and fair value measurement.
What is the historical cost principle? The acquired assets and services should be recorded at their actual cost at the time of purchase. The cost is a reliable and verifiable measure. It is considered objective. An entity should continue reporting the historical cost of an asset over its useful life. Now look at an example of the historical cost principle. Example. A company pays Rm20 recorded at a cost of Rm20,000. The cost is a reliable, verifiable, and an objective measure. We must record it at their actual cost. Second, we will learn about objectivity. What is objectivity? 1. All accounting data must have evidences. 2. Valid and reliable to support transactions occur. 3. The goal is to prevent accountants in giving subjective and inaccurate opinion. Read example for objectivity. What is the important sentence or word from the example? Siaran Enterprise uses receipts and vouchers as source documents to record cash transactions. However, for cash taken by the owner, there is no document issued. Hence, drawings was not recorded. What do you think? So, what is the conclusion of the above situation? Conclusion. The business does not comply with the concept of objectivity for the drawings. All transactions should have source documents as basis for recording. These documents provides evidences and can facilitate the recording of transactions. . Third, what is the principle of full disclosure? The company should report sufficient information, i.e. relevant, reliable, comparable. Usually, the disclosures are in notes to the financial statements. Is the situation below relevant to the principle of full disclosure? Sesi Enterprise has changed its inventory valuation method. The company did not disclose this information in the financial statements for the accounting period. What do you think?
What is the conclusion? Sesi Enterprise does not comply with the concept of full disclosure. When a change is made, details of the change should be reported in the notes to the accounts. The aim is to inform the user of changes in the financial statements.
Fourth, consistency. What is consistency? 1. Uses the same accounting principles, methods from year to year. 2. The permit meaningful analysis of trends within a business. Example. A company uses straight-line method in depreciating its fixed asset. It decides to change to declining balance method. Conclusion. It does not follow the rules of the consistency because the depreciation method should be used from year to year. Any changes should be disclosed in the notes to the financial statements.
The next accounting principles is the revenue recognition. This principle mainly concerns on determining an appropriate period to recognize revenue. Revenue is recognized in the period they are earned. When ownership of merchandises has been transferred to the buyer or when services are rendered. The criteria for the principal recognition revenue are: 1. There is a change of ownership, title. 2. Buyers are willing to pay. 3. The stability of the currency. 4. Buyers are able to pay. Based on the situation in the example, Ahmad sells pottery. He received an order for 100 porcelain vases on January 1, 2020 and received a total payment of Rs 1,000. Goods delivered to buyers on the 15th of January 2020. When should sales be recognized? Give your opinion. Conclusion. Ahmad needs to recognize the sale proceeds of Rs 1,000 on the 15th of January 2020 due to the change of ownership of the goods on that date. The last accounting principles we will learn are expenses recognition or matching principle. Its main concern is to report the expenses incurred in the same period as if the revenue is actually earned as a result of this expenses. This principle helps business to determine the profit or loss incurred for the period by deducting the related expenses from the revenue earned in the same period. Expenses are recorded in the accounting period in which it has been involved to generate revenue. Expenses are recognized when they are incurred even if payment has not been made. To report the actual amount of revenue and expenditure for a financial period. What do you think based on the example below and why? Example. Tini has recorded expenses of Rs 3,000 for utility used by her business in December 2019, although the payment for the utility will only made in January 2020. What do you think? Conclusion. Tini follows to the concept of expense recognition and expenses of the period should be recorded in accounting period it incurred. There are two accounting constraints. Both constraints are discussed below. 1. Materiality. This concept requires business to account only for the items that are deemed significant for a given size of operation. Thus, accountant can ignore and exclude all the items or transaction, which give insignificant effect on the financial statement, or can be concluded. Materiality relates to an item's impact on a firm's overall financial condition and operations. An item is material when it is likely to influence the decision of a reasonably prudent investor or creditor. To determine the materiality of an amount, an accountant looks at its importance and its relative size. Compare it with such items as total assets, total liabilities and net income. Based on the situation in the example, a company purchases a calculator at a cost Rm20 and it will depreciate for 5 years over its useful life. Give your opinion. Conclusion. Although proper accounting would depreciate the calculator over its useful life, but relatively to the size of total assets the cost of Rm20 is considered not important. The amount will not make a material difference on total assets and net income. As such, the Rm20 calculator should be charged to the current accounting period only and not being depreciated for 5 years. 2. Fair value measurement. What is fair value measurement? Fair value measurement states that assets and liabilities should be reported at fair value when it comes to the point of selling assets or settling liabilities. FAS number 157 defines fair value as the price that would be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer a liability, that is, the exit price, in an orderly transaction between market participants at the measurement date. What is double entry system? Accounting uses the double entry system, which means that we record the dual effects of each transaction. As a result, every transaction affects at least 2 accounts. It would be incomplete to record only the giving side, or only the receiving side, of a transaction. Questions. Discuss the accounting principles involved and why. 1. Market value of machine is Rm 10,000 and original cost is Rm 7,000. What is the cost that should be recorded by the company? 2. The company must report any information necessary for decision-making should be included in the notes to account at financial statement. 3. What is double entry system? Conclusion. We have finished learning Chapter 2. It is expected that students can describe the accounting concepts, that are historical cost, objectivity, full disclosure, consistency, revenue recognition, expense recognition, materiality and fair value measurement, and also can explain the double entry system. All students must be ready for Chapter 3 accounting cycle for next lesson.
Thank you and see you again in the next video.
Hello students. Peace be upon you. How are you? I hope you are in the pink of health. Today we will learn about Chapter 3 the accounting cycle. Let's go. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to 3.1 Explain briefly the steps in the accounting cycle. 3.2 Explain the types of source documents used in the business. 3.1 Steps in accounting cycle. There are 9 steps in accounting cycle. First, transactions analysis. The documents source from transaction in a business. Second, record to journals. Third, post to the ledger accounts. Next, prepare a trial balance. Then, do the adjustments with deferrals and accruals. After that, prepare an adjusted trial balance. Next step prepares financial statements, which are statement of comprehensive income and statement of financial position. Last but not least, journalize and post-closing entries. Finally, prepare a post-closing trial balance. How does a transaction take place in a business? First, a manager or other employee authorizes the transaction. Transaction may be external or internal. Then, transaction takes place. Example, Ali invested Rm 10,000 as capital. But, Some activities do not represent business transaction. Example, a clerk is responding to emails. Second, each transaction will change in the company financial position. Third, the businesses involved in the transaction will prepare documents that give details of the transaction. Lastly, these documents then become the basis for analyzing and recording the transaction. Transaction are a business's economic events recoded by accountant. The company must analyze to find out if it affects financial position. If it does, the company will record the transaction. 3.2 Types of source documents. The document is a source of business written as a proof for each business transaction that has occurred. There are two types of functions, namely business source document for reference document and the document as a source of information. Only the document's source of information should be recorded in accounting books. Okay, take a look at first documents, which is invoice. It is a document delivered by the seller to the buyer in the event of a credit transaction. It indicates the products, quantities, and agreed prices for products or services the seller had provided to the buyer. Payment terms are usually stated on the invoice. Original invoice, purchase credit, will be received by customer, and a copy of the invoice, credit sales, will be kept by seller. Next document is delivery notes. Delivered by the seller to the buyer together with the goods. Is a document that lists details about the goods delivered. Buyers can check these items. Debit note. Delivered by the seller to the buyer to inform that his account has been debited. So, customer's debt will increase. For example, the price shown is understated Rm1 per pair. Credit note. Delivered by the seller to the buyer to inform the buyer that the account has been credited. It will reduce a customer debt. It is a document to correct a mistake on an order or an invoice or to refund an amount paid. For example, customer received damaged products and wrong size. Purchase order. Sent by the buyer to the seller that contains information about the goods to be purchased. It will include a number for tracking the purchase order, the type of item, quantity and agreed upon price. Okay, students. What is receipts? It is issued by the seller when receipt of payment from the buyer. It is used as an evidence for receipts and payments have been made. Payment voucher. Internal documents provided by the business owner to record any kind of payment. The voucher is important because it's an internal accounting control mechanism that ensures that every payment is properly authorized and that the goods or services purchased are actually received. Check but. It is kept by the business and the check is given to person being paid as evidence that a payment has been made. Check but used as a reference and resource records. What is bank slip? It is a form issued by the bank for the transaction record store or withdraw money from customers. Bank statement. Issued by the bank to the account holder at the end of the month. It is an official summary of financial transaction occurring within a given period for each bank account held by a person or business with a financial institution. Thank you students. See you in the next video. Bye.
Baik, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Salam inspirasi, salam kejayaan buat semua. Apa khabar semua? Hari ini kami ada wawancara bersama dengan pakar dalam bidang profesional masing-masing. Dan hari ini kita khas untuk kerjaya sebagai accountant ataupun dalam bidang perakaunan. Jadinya kita akan kenalkanlah tetamu jemputan kita ni, nama dia siapa, dari mana, kerja dekat mana kan. Sementara tunggu dia masuk lah. Okey, nama diberi Encik Muhammad Azimin. Dia seorang pernah berkhidmat di beberapa tempat. Tapi nak tahu secara lanjut, kita boleh tanya dia lah kejap lagi. Dia dah masuk dah pun. Assalamualaikum. Dia baru masuk. Assalamualaikum. Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi.
Ya, apa khabar?
Khabar baik.
Bagus. Jadi terima kasihlah sebab dapat meluangkan masa dengan kami untuk diwawancara, untuk share dengan adik-adik, especially yang ambil bidang perakaunan lah. Mungkin mereka ni tak tahu apa boleh jadi selain jadi accountant lah. Dia dalam kepala dia accountant je. Okey, mungkin Cik Hazimin boleh kenalkan diri?
Okey, nama penuh saya Hazimin bin Ahmad alias Taufik. Saya berasal dari Machang, Kelantan, tapi saya sudah lebih hampirlah saya rasa 12 tahun di Johor, bekerja di Johor. Okey. Saya berumur 34 tahun, sudah berkahwin dan mempunyai 3 orang anak.
Okey, belajar di mana dulu tuan?
Okey, saya daripada sekolah rendah hingga sekolah darjah tingkatan 3 di kampung, maksud saya di Machang, Kelantan. Bermula daripada tingkatan 4, saya belajar di MRSM Pendang, Kedah. Dan seterusnya saya melanjutkan pelajaran ke kolej matrikulasi Kolej Semara Kuala Nerang juga di Kedah.
KMKN lah.
Dan seterusnya KMKN dan seterusnya Universiti Utara Malaysia di dalam bidang.
Okey, di UUM memang ambil bidang akaun atau bagaimana?
Okey, memang daripada awal saya mengambil bidang perakaunan lah di UUM, perakaunan dengan pujian. Di matrikulasi pun saya sudah mengambil aliran akaun lah.
Okey, so setelah bergraduasi, Encik Azimin terus menjadi accountant atau bagaimana? Sebab di fikiran adik-adik ni ada yang kata, oh lepas grad aku dah accountant dah. Cuba cerita sikit dia punya pathway tu, nak jadi accountant.
Okey. Untuk menjadi seorang accountant, sebenarnya dia tertakluk kepada Akta Accountant 1967. Okey, semua orang yang hendak memakai title accountant, dia perlu berdaftar dengan kalau di Malaysia, Malaysian Institute of Accountant. Maksudnya Institut Perakaunan Malaysia lah. Okey. Dan untuk berdaftar tu dia ada syarat-syarat dia lah. Kalau ikutkan, kalau saya perlu pengalaman 3 tahun dalam bidang yang berkaitan dan lepas pada itu baru boleh berdaftar lah dan menjadi ahli MIA, Malaysia Institute of Accountant, baru kita boleh memakai title accountant. Kalau contoh keluar daripada universiti, kita terus memakai title accountant, itu dikira salah sebab dia tidak menepati akta.
Salah
Yeah.
Dia berangan cepat sangat tu.
Betul.
Jadi lepas grad tu boleh kerja apa dulu bang? Ada yang tanya ni.
Kalau daripada segi pengalaman saya lah, saya habis di universiti pada tahun 2008, Universiti Utara Malaysia, dan saya memulakan kerja saya sebagai pembantu juraaudit di audit firm, satu firma audit di Johor Bahru lah. Okey. Semua orang kata pembantu juraaudit ni adalah untuk mencari pengalaman sebelum kita pergi ke arah bidang-bidang lain yang lebih spesifik lah. Jadi kebiasaannya lah orang pelajar-pelajar mengambil perakaunan, dia akan menghabiskan masa lebih kurang 3 tahun di mengambil pengalaman dan kemudian baru dia akan pergi ke bidang-bidang yang dia minati lah, bidang-bidang perakaunan yang dia minati. Okay. Sebab di bidang audit ni kita belajar tentang segala jenis bisnes lah, ikut yang di mana kita bekerja. Contoh, kita berada di satu firma yang sederhana, jadi mungkin kita membuat audit untuk syarikat-syarikat seni berhad yang kecil dan sederhana. Jadi kita boleh tengok ada orang yang buat bisnes pasal transportation, ada yang dalam bidang pelancongan. Jadi daripada situ kita boleh tengok akaun syarikat tersebut dan kita boleh belajar macam mana dia mungkin dapatkan sale, apa dia punya cost of sale. Daripada situ kita dapat timbul banyak pengalaman sebelum kita mendaftarkan diri untuk menjadi seorang accountant.
Okey, betul. Saya setuju tu. Tapi kalau kita ajar akaun ataupun perniagaan ataupun ekonomi, adik-adik ni minat. Tapi dia kata, selain akaun tu ada audit. Apa tu audit? Apa kerja dia? Apa kerja dia bang?
Okey. Bidang perakaunan sebenarnya sangat luas. Audit tu adalah salah satu daripada bidang perakaunan lah. Audit ni kita macam melihat balik akaun yang disediakan oleh pihak syarikat. Okey, di Malaysia memang semua syarikat-syarikat yang berdaftar dengan seluruh syarikat perlu melalui proses audit. Audit itu perlu dilakukan oleh audit yang dilantik, iaitu dipanggil external audit lah, audit luar. Jika ada setengah company yang besar, dia ada satu tim audit, tapi itu dipanggil audit dalaman. Jadi dia masih perlu untuk menghantar kepada audit luar lah, iaitu yang dilakukan oleh firma-firma audit. Kalau saya rasa puan pun tahu yang di Malaysia ada beratus-ratus firma audit dan yang antara yang terbesar dipanggil macam Ernst & Young, KPMG. Okay. Ada lebih kurang 4 atau 5 firma yang besar.
Ya, betul. Alhamdulillah. Itu sebenarnya ya adik-adik yang ambil akaun ada dalam bab 1. Form 4.
Pengenalan kepada
pengenalan. Jadi bila bab 1 form 4 lah katakan, honeymoon year kan. Jadi dia macam dia tak ambil pot lah. Tapi kita balik apa peluang yang ada, apa bidang yang ada dalam akaun ni, sebab dia ada sub-sub bidang kan. Jadi di skrin mungkin Tuan Nazimin pun dapat nampak Malaysia Institute of Accountants punya website. Jadinya kalau tengok kat sini macam-macam lah. Dia ada membership and education, dia selalu ada conference, dia ada professional development dan sebagainya lah. Dekat sini mungkin adik-adik jangan trauma lah tengok English English tu sangat perlulah dalam accounting ni. Betul tak Cik Azimin?
Betul.
Komen
sebab kebanyakan syarikat menggunakan membuat akaun tu dalam bahasa Inggeris lah. Sebab ada beberapa terma-terma tu yang lagi mudah kita menggunakan bahasa Inggeris daripada bahasa Melayu. Bila maksudnya untuk diterjemahkan tu agak susah sikit kalau dalam bahasa Melayu kan. Jadi memang kita kena faham lebih kepada bahasa Inggeris lah untuk membuat sesuatu perkara dalam bidang perakaunan ni. Okey.
Masa Cik Azimin sekolah dulu struggle tak untuk English tu?
Okey, actually untuk bidang perakaunan, English dia tu adalah orang kata simple saja. Bukannya macam dalam yang kita belajar betul-betul belajar English kan. Jadi sebenarnya benda-benda tu kita jumpa hari-hari. Memang kita ni cuma ada term-term lah yang kita mungkin jarang-jarang jumpa sebab kita tak pernah mendalami benda tersebut. Contohnya macam leasing, term loan, benda-benda yang berkaitan dengan akaun.
Ya, betul. Okey, so adik-adik jangan takut. Belajar juga, English tu kena belajar, kena tahu, kena ambil tahu. Jadi berjinak-jinak lah tengok-tengok website macam ni. Dia macam-macam lagi, tapi ini adalah governing body untuk di Malaysia lah. Kalau buka ACCA tu dia satu dunia. So berjinak-jinak lah ataupun bertanya-tanya lah. Jangan tak tanya. Okey, pernah menyimpan cita-cita jadi accountant dari kecil ke macam mana?
Okey, cita-cita kalau ikutkan daripada sekolah rendah hingga pangkatan 3 macam tu, memang saya ada bercita-cita jugalah accountant, tapi kita tak spesifik lah nak jadi accountant. Masa tu macam kita masih mencari-cari orang kata. Sebab yalah, kita pun tak nampak lagi apa dia accountant ni sebenarnya. Tapi bila saya masuk ke tingkatan 4, masa tingkatan 4 tu saya mengalami orang kata perubahan lah. Sebab masa tingkatan 4 tu kita dah start ikut aliran kan.
Ya, betul.
Okey, mula-mula saya bersekolah di sekolah biasa. Saya mengambil subjek biologi sebenarnya. Jadi
Mm-mm.
kelas 9. Okey, bila saya masuk lab, saya macam tengok, alamak susahnya. Okey. Jadi lepas pada tu kebetulan saya mendapat panggilan daripada sekolah menengah teknik dalam bidang electrical engineering. Okey,
Oh.
saya masuk pula electrical engineering dan macam-macam lah kena beli. Kena bawa lukisan, lepas tu kena beli lita. And
Mm-mm.
then saya tengok, alamak susahnya. Kebetulan lagi sekali pada bulan 4 pada tahun tersebut, tak silap saya tahun 2011. Saya uh, bukan 2011, sorry, 2001, saya dapat panggilan daripada MSM Penang, yang mana MSM Penang ini baru tahun pertama dibuka. Jadi buat sikit. Jadi setelah berbincang, saya terus ke MSM dan ada dua pilihan, iaitu sama ada saya akan masuk aliran sains ataupun aliran perakaunan. Jadi saya fikir nak cubalah aliran perakaunan. Jadi di situlah saya mula.
Masya Allah. Rezeki lah. Itu ada dilorongkan tu je.
Ya, betul.
Ya,
Itulah yang
Alhamdulillah.
terbaik buat saya.
So,
Alhamdulillah.
dah masuk tu redha je ke atau macam mana? Memupuk minat ke apa?
Memang memumpuk minat sebab Alhamdulillah saya pun dapat seorang guru yang amat berdedikasi, orang kata. Sepanjang 2 tahun saya berada di MSM tu, saya belajar dengan amat bagus sekali lah dengan bantuan guru tersebut. Sebab sebelum tu boleh katakan saya belum ada basic. Di situ je bermulanya saya belajar akaun.
Struggle lah masa tu. Boy, account apa ni masuk ni Apa tu buku catatan pertama lah. Tu biasa kan bang? Biasa kan?
Biasa, tapi pada mula-mula memang kita dengar macam tu lah, pertama dan kira. Tapi bila kita masuk matrikulasi dan universiti, kita sudah guna bahasa Inggeris, jadi kita dah makin lupa yang bahasa Melayu yang kita belajar sebelum ni.
Tapi dia punya teknik tu tetap sama ya, step-step tu tetap sama. So adik-adik tak apa, struggle tu dalam masa 3-4 bulan je sebenarnya untuk dapatkan terms-terms tu. And then you dah berubah masuk universiti, it's in English, cuma translate saja. Teknik tetap sama, masuk sini. So, siapa yang belajar account, dia nampaklah apa saya ataupun kita cerita ni. Okey. Bagus. Apakah subjek yang paling diminati masa sekolah dululah, masa form 4, form 5 lah, especially sebab dah masuk aliran kan?
Okey, subjek yang saya minati tentulah akaun. Dan yang kedua adalah matematik lah. Matematik saja, tambahan. Matematik saja, yalah, tak berapa bagus lah juga. Dan dua-dua subjek ni adalah penting untuk bidang perakaunan lah pada saya. Memang sangat membantu.
Admat tu dia membantu untuk apa orang kata kredit untuk masuk belajar lah sebenarnya. Tapi ia juga memupuk kita punya decision making dan sebagainya supaya kita ada tahap berfikir tinggi sikit lah. Tapi adik-adik kena buat sehabis baik lah. Janganlah abang ni kata matematik je, tak payah admat sangat. Tapi perlu. Bagi lulus lah.
Masa kita belajar tu, kita belajar kita tak tahu apa guna benda ni. Kadang-kadang. Tapi bila kita dah habis belajar tersebut, kita baru faham. Oh, ini membuatkan kita lagi melatih kita lagi tahu sesuatu benda. Melatih otak kita.
Sometimes
jadi, sebenarnya semua tu penting lah kepada inilah sebagai seorang pelajar.
Bagus. Okey. Masa belajar, ada tak merasa macam down? Rasa macam aku tak boleh buat lah. Macam mana ni? Apa tindakan saudara, cik?
Okey, masa belajar memang ada beberapa kali lah kita rasa macam down, rasa dah tak boleh nak buat ataupun terlampau sibuk sebab dulu saya ada menyertai program under college. Jadi masa kita agak terhad, Tapi apa yang saya rasa membantu adalah rakan-rakan kita di sekeliling lah. Bila contohnya lecturer ada bagi tugasan dan kita memang tak sempat nak buat. Jadi kita berbincang dengan rakan-rakan kita yang sudah satu grup ni, kita cuba divertkan benda tu, kita bahagi-bahagikan tugas dan ia akan, kadang-kadang kawan kita ni akan tolong kita lah. Jadi saya haraplah kalau adik-adik nanti boleh cari kawan yang betul lah supaya dapat.
Assalamualaikum and welcome to the video. I am Muhammad Hafizul Hafiz bin Husin from Physics Unit Kmpk. I would like to welcome you to the video series and most important of all, welcome to this amazing college. In this video, we are going to go through experiment 1, measurement and uncertainty. Make sure you have your jotter and manual ready. You will need your jotter for taking notes as you follow along with the video. The learning outcome of the experiment is that you can measure and determine the uncertainty of physical quantity. Uncertainty or doubt of measurement can be understood as follows. Let's say you are trying to measure the length of the leaf. The ruler has a resolution of 0.1 cm. Resolution is the smallest increment of the measuring instrument or the smallest division on the scale. What would be the length of the leaf? You are sure that the leaf is at least 3.5 cm. You are pretty confident on that. But as you can see, the end of the leaf is not exactly at the 3.5 cm mark. We cannot really tell for certain the length of the leaf. So we are going to estimate the length of the leaf. We estimate the length to be about 3.5 cm. The reading is actually at the interval between 3.5 and 3.6. This interval is the uncertainty of measurement. We are going to report the length of the leaf as 3.5 plus minus 0.1 cm. So when other people see the reading, they know the value are estimated closest to 0.1 cm. So, when reporting the measurement, we will write the value of the measurement as our best estimate plus minus the uncertainty. If x is the measured physical quantity, then the value of x is written as x plus minus delta x. The delta x is the uncertainty of the value of x. So, every measurement that we make in the experiment has some degree of uncertainty. As we have shown before, the uncertainty is due to the limitation from the resolution of the measuring instrument. Instrument with better resolution is able to produce measurement with higher precision. For example, if we take the vernier caliper, the resolution is 0.002 cm. If the caliper is used to measure the length of the leaf instead of the meter ruler, the reading will be much more precise and we will have a much lower uncertainty. The uncertainty is going to be 0.002 cm. According to Stephanie Bell, the uncertainty tells about the quality of the measurement. You can pause the video and you can read the definition given by Stephanie Bell on uncertainty of measurement. I hope this has given you some ideas on what uncertainty is and why it is very important when making and reporting measurement. Coming back to the learning outcome, now I am going to show you how to determine the uncertainty of measurement. We are going to discuss how you can determine the uncertainty for 1. Single reading, 2. Repeated reading, and 3. Combination of uncertainty for a derived quantity. Moving on to the first section, uncertainty of a single reading. The uncertainty of measurement is determined from the method of reading. Either you have a single point reading, 2-point reading, or vernier scale reading. For single reading, the uncertainty of measurement is taken as half of the smallest division on the scale. Example of the instrument are ammeter, voltmeter and thermometer. For a 2-point reading, the uncertainty is taken to be 2 times half of the smallest division, which is going to be equals to the smallest division from scale. Example of instrument are meter ruler and protractor. Finally, we have vernier scale. The uncertainty is going to be the smallest unit on vernier. Example of the instrument are vernier caliper, micrometer screw gauge, and traveling microscope. The easy way to know whether you have a single point or double point reading is that if the zero of the instrument is automatically lines up, means that the instrument is going to give you a single point reading, as in the case of a voltmeter. If you look at the resolution of the voltmeter, the resolution is 0.1 volt. The uncertainty is half of the smallest division, so the uncertainty of the instrument is 0.05 volt. If you have to manually align the zero, means that you have 2-point reading. If you look back at the examples where we are trying to determine the length of a leaf, first we need to align one end of the leaf with the 0 on the meter ruler, and then we have to estimate where the other end of the leaf on the scale. In this case, the estimate is made twice. That is why uncertainty is 2 times the smallest division from scale. Here are some of the examples of the instrument. Let's look at meter ruler and ammeter. Meter ruler is 2-point reading. The resolution is 0.1 cm. The uncertainty for measurement for the meter ruler is 0.1 cm, which is equals to resolution of the instrument. In the case of the ammeter, the 0 is automatic. Thus, we have a single point reading. The resolution is 0.02 milliamps. The uncertainty of the instrument is half of the resolution, 0.01 milliamps. For vernier and micrometer screw gauge, the uncertainty is just going to be equals to the smallest unit on the scale. We recommend that when you write the list of the apparatus, go to the measuring instrument in the list and write the range and the resolution of the instrument next to the instrument name. You can get both of the value from the instrument itself. Here are some examples. Next to the instrument, we write the range and the resolution of the instrument. Look at how the value of the length of the book and the current is written. The measurement value and the uncertainty has the same decimal point. The percentage of uncertainty can be calculated as the relative uncertainty, delta x divided by x, this is the relative uncertainty, times with 100%. Relative uncertainty times with 100% will give you the percentage of uncertainty. We want the value to be small. Remember when I said uncertainty tells about the quality of measurement. The smaller the value of the percentage of uncertainty, the better the measurement. That is it for a single reading measurement. Now we are at the repeated reading section. We want the uncertainty of the measurement to be small. In order to do that, we are going to do a repeated reading. In repeated reading measurement, the value of the measurement is the average value of the reading plus minus the uncertainty. This two formula is going to be used to find the average value and the uncertainty of reading. I'm going to show you some examples on how to use these two formula. In repeated reading, we are going to use table to record the value of the measurement. On the left, we have reading from an ammeter. The uncertainty of measurement is recorded at the very top of the current in circuit column. The value of the uncertainty is 0.05 ampere. This is for single reading uncertainty. To better improve the uncertainty, we repeat the measurement of current 5 times. First, we calculate the average value of current. We add all the value from the reading and then divide by the number of readings. We get the average value of current to be 1.54 amps. Next, we want to calculate the uncertainty for the measurement. We are going to use this formula. On the third column, we find the difference between the average value with each of the reading. And then we add all them up and then divide by the number of reading. This gives us the uncertainty for the current. We get the value of 0.032 amps. For the uncertainty, we have to round up the value to one significant figure. You have to remember this rule. So the uncertainty of our repeated readings is 0.03 amps. This improves the uncertainty of our reading from 0.05 to 0.03. The percentage of uncertainty can be calculated using this formula. 0.03 divided by the average value of the current and then times 100%. The percentage of uncertainty that we get is 1.94%. Okay, now we are on the section of combination of uncertainty. Previously, we are only discussing the uncertainty of base quantity measurement. In this section, we are going to look at how the uncertainty propagates into calculation. We are going to look at the uncertainty for derived quantity. I'm going to present some example on how to calculate the uncertainty for a derived quantity. If the measured value is used for addition or subtraction, for example, we have x equals to a plus b minus c, the measured value of a, b and c has its own uncertainty. Delta a, delta b and delta c. The uncertainty for the value of x is just the sum of the uncertainty of a plus b plus c. To illustrate the idea of the combination of uncertainty for addition and subtraction, we are going to use this example. In this example, we are going to find the parameter of parallelogram. The size is measured to be 5.0, 13.0, 4.30 and 10.03. The parameter can be calculated by adding all the sides. 5.0 plus with 13.0 plus 4.30 plus 10.03, this gives us 32.33 centimeter. The addition rules for significant figure is that the number of decimal in the result cannot exceed the lowest number of decimal in the measurement. The lowest decimal in the measurement is the 5.0 and 13.0. They only have one decimal. So, the final answer must only have one decimal. We are going to round off the value to 32.3. The uncertainty for the parameter is going to be the sum of all the uncertainty. 0.1 plus 0.01 plus 0.1 plus 0.01. We get 0.22. When writing the final answer, we have to make sure the decimal point of the parameter and the uncertainty are the same. The parameter of the parallelogram is 32.3 plus minus 0.2 centimeter. Now we have a multiplication by a constant. The value of x is obtained by multiplying the constant k to the value of a. Value of a is a measured value. The uncertainty for the value of x is going to be the constant times the uncertainty of a. In this example, we have a circle with a radius measured to be 2.0 plus minus 0.1. The diameter of the circle is 2 times the radius of the circle. So 2 times 2.0 is 4.0 centimeter. The uncertainty for the diameter is just 2 times the uncertainty of the radius. So we have 2 times 0.1 equals to 0.2 centimeter. So the value of the diameter is 4.0 plus minus 0.2 centimeter. When writing the answer, make sure the value and the uncertainty have the same decimal. Now, we are going to find the combination of uncertainty for multiplication and division. The way we are going to find the combination of uncertainty for multiplication and division is very similar to addition and subtraction. But instead of adding the uncertainty directly, we add the relative uncertainty. In this case, we have x equals to a times b over c. The combination of uncertainty for x is delta a over a plus delta b over b plus delta c over c. The combination of uncertainty for multiplication and division can be calculated as the sum of the relative uncertainty for a, b and c. Or you can add the percentage of uncertainty of a plus b plus c. Remember, percentage of uncertainty is just relative uncertainty times with 100%. In this example, we are going to find the area of a rectangle. The sides are 10.0, it has 3 significant figures, and the other side 4.0, it has 2 significant figures. Thus, the final answer must be rounded off to 2 significant figures. The rule for significant figure for multiplication, the answer must have the fewest number of significant figures as the number we started with. The area of the rectangle is 40 centimeters square. 10.0 times with 4.0. We first calculate the relative uncertainty for area. The relative uncertainty for multiplication is just the sum of the individual relative uncertainty. Thus, we have the delta x over x plus delta y over y. This gives us the relative uncertainty of 0.035, or in the percentage uncertainty as 3.5%. To get the uncertainty for area, we multiply the relative uncertainty with the area. 0.035 times 40, we get 1.4. The area and the uncertainty for area must have the same decimal. So we have to round off the value of the uncertainty to 1. The area of the rectangle is 40 plus minus 1 centimeter square. Raising a measurement to a constant power. In this case, we have x equals to a to the power of n. The relative uncertainty for x is just equals to n times the relative uncertainty for a. In this example, we have a cube with a measured sides of 2.0 plus minus 0.1 centimeter. The volume is just equals to the side d cube, d times d times d. So the volume of the cube is just equals to 2.0 cube equals to 8.0 centimeter cube. Remember, for multiplication, the number of significant figure in the result must not exceed the number of significant figure in the measurement. D cube is d times d times d. Because d is repeating 3 times, we are going to add the relative uncertainty for d 3 times. Hence, we can just multiply the relative uncertainty of d by 3. This gives us the relative uncertainty for the volume equals to 0.15 or 15%. Thus, the volume of the cube can be written as 8.0 plus minus 15% centimeter cube. To get the uncertainty for the volume, the relative uncertainty times with the volume. We get 1.2 centimeter cube. Thus, the volume of the cube is 8.0 plus minus 1.2 centimeter cube. We are going to do another example. In this example, we are going to find the volume of a sphere. The equation of the volume of a sphere is equals to 4/3 pi r cube. The radius is raised to the third power. Using the equation, we get the volume of sphere equals to 64.4498. We are going to round off this value into two significant figures. We have 64 centimeter cube. Then we find the relative uncertainty for the volume. We can ignore the constant in the calculation of the relative uncertainty for the volume. Because R is repeating 3 times, so the relative uncertainty of volume is 3 times the relative uncertainty of the radius. We get the percentage of uncertainty for volume equals to 0.12 or 12%. To find the uncertainty of volume, we multiply the percentage uncertainty or the relative uncertainty of volume with the volume of the sphere. 0.12 times 64, we get 7.68. We round off the value to 8 so that the volume and the uncertainty have the same decimal. The volume of the sphere is 64 plus minus 8 centimeter cube, or we can write the volume as 64 plus minus 12%. The procedure has 3 sections. In the first section, you are going to do a single reading and then followed by a repeated reading, and finally you are going to calculate the derived quantity and its uncertainty. Before I end the video, I am going to summarize the procedure of the experiment in this table. For single reading measurement, you are going to measure the length and width of the manual, the length of the rod, and mass of ball bearing. In the repeated reading measurement, you are going to measure the external diameter of rod, the diameter of a coin, and the diameter of ball bearing. You can use this table to record your measurement, one table for each item. In the derived quantity calculation, you are going to calculate and determine the uncertainty for the derived quantity. You are going to calculate the perimeter of manual, circumference of coin, and finally, the surface area, the volume, and the density of the ball bearing. You have measured all the base value to calculate the derived quantity in the previous section. Use the appropriate formula to find the value of the derived quantity. That is it for the video. Thank you so much for your attention, and see you in the next video. Assalamualaikum and welcome to the video. I am Muhammad Hafizul Hafiz bin Husin from Physics Unit Kmpk. I would like to welcome you to the video series, and most important of all, welcome to this amazing college. In this video, we are going to go through Experiment 1, Measurement and Uncertainty. Make sure you have your jotter and manual ready. You will need your jotter for taking notes as you follow along with the video. The learning outcome of the experiment is that you need to be able to measure the lengths of various objects and determine its uncertainty. Uncertainty or doubt of measurement can be understood as follows. Let's say you are trying to measure the length of the leaf. The ruler has a resolution of 0.1 centimeter. Resolution is the smallest increment of the measuring instrument or the smallest division on the scale. What would be the length of the leaf? You are sure that the leaf is at least 3.5 cm. You are pretty confident on that. But as you can see, the end of the leaf is not exactly at the 3.5 cm mark. We cannot really tell for certain the length of the leaf. So we are going to estimate the length of the leaf. We estimate the length to be about 3.5 cm. The reading is actually at the interval between 3.5 and 3.6. This interval is the uncertainty of measurement. We are going to report the length of the leaf as 3.5 plus minus 0.1 cm. So when other people see the reading, they know the value are estimated closest to 0.1 cm. So when reporting the measurement, we will write the value of the measurement as our best estimate plus minus the uncertainty. If x is the measured physical quantity, then the value of x is written as x plus minus delta x. The delta x is the uncertainty of the value of x. So, every measurement that we make in the experiment has some degree of uncertainty. As we have shown before, the uncertainty is due to the limitation from the resolution of the measuring instrument. Instrument with better resolution is able to produce measurement with higher precision. For example, if we take the vernier caliper, the resolution is 0.002 cm. If the caliper is used to measure the length of the leaf instead of the meter ruler, the reading will be much more precise and we will have a much lower uncertainty. The uncertainty is going to be 0.002 cm. According to Stephanie Bell, the uncertainty tells about the quality of the measurement. You can pause the video and you can read the definition given by Stephanie Bell on uncertainty of measurement. I hope this has given you some ideas on what uncertainty is and why it is very important when making and reporting measurement. Coming back to the learning outcome, now I am going to show you how to determine the uncertainty of measurement. We are going to discuss how you can determine the uncertainty for 1. Single reading, 2. Repeated reading, and 3. Combination of uncertainty for a derived quantity. Moving on to the first section, uncertainty of a single reading. The uncertainty of measurement is determined from the method of reading. Either you have a single point reading, 2-point reading, or vernier scale reading. For single reading, the uncertainty of measurement is taken as half of the smallest division on the scale. Example of the instrument are ammeter, voltmeter, and thermometer. For a 2-point reading, the uncertainty is taken to be 2 times half of the smallest division, which is going to be equals to the smallest division from scale. Example of instrument are meter ruler and protractor. Finally, we have vernier scale. The uncertainty is going to be the smallest unit on vernier. Example of the instrument are vernier caliper, micrometer screw gauge, and traveling microscope. The easy way to know whether you have a single point or double point reading is that if the zero of the instrument is automatically lines up, means that the instrument is going to give you a single point reading, as in the case of a voltmeter. If you look at the resolution of the voltmeter, the resolution is 0.1 volt. The uncertainty is half of the smallest division, so the uncertainty of the instrument is 0.05 volt. If you have to manually align the zero, means that you have 2-point reading. If you look back at the examples where we are trying to determine the length of a leaf, first we need to align one end of the leaf with the 0 on the meter ruler, and then we have to estimate where the other end of the leaf on the scale. In this case, the estimate is made twice. That is why uncertainty is 2 times the smallest division from scale. Here are some of the examples of the instrument. Let's look at meter ruler and ammeter. Meter ruler is 2-point reading. The resolution is 0.1 cm. The uncertainty for measurement for the meter ruler is 0.1 cm, which is equals to resolution of the instrument. In the case of the ammeter, the 0 is automatic. Thus, we have a single point reading. The resolution is 0.02 milliamps. The uncertainty of the instrument is half of the resolution, 0.01 milliamps. For vernier and micrometer screw gauge, the uncertainty is just going to be equals to the smallest unit on the scale. We recommend that when you write the list of the apparatus, go to the measuring instrument in the list and write the range and the resolution of the instrument next to the instrument name. You can get both of the value from the instrument itself. Here are some example instruments. Look at how the value of the length of the book and the current is written. The measurement value and the uncertainty has the same decimal point. The percentage of uncertainty can be calculated using this formula. The uncertainty of measurement over the value times with 100%. We want the value to be small. Remember when I said uncertainty tells about the quality of measurement. The smaller the value of the percentage of uncertainty, the better the measurement. That is it for a single reading measurement. Now we are at the repeated reading section. We want the uncertainty of the measurement to be small. In order to do that, we are going to do a repeated reading. In repeated reading measurement, the value of the measurement is the average value of the reading plus minus the uncertainty. This two formula is going to be used to find the average value and the uncertainty of reading. I'm going to show you some examples on how to use these two formula. In repeated reading, we are going to use table to record the value of the measurement. On the left, we have reading from an ammeter. The uncertainty of measurement is recorded at the very top of the current in circuit column. The value of the uncertainty is 0.05 ampere. This is for single reading uncertainty. To better improve the uncertainty, we repeat the measurement of current 5 times. First, we calculate the average value of current. We add all the value from the reading and then divide by the number of readings. We get the average value of current to be 1.54 amps. Next, we want to calculate the uncertainty for the measurement. We are going to use this formula. On the third column, we find the difference between the average value with each of the reading. And then we add all them up and then divide by the number of reading. This gives us the uncertainty for the current. We get the value of 0.032 amps. For the uncertainty, we have to round up the value to one significant figure. You have to remember this rule. So the uncertainty of our repeated readings is 0.03 amps. This improves the uncertainty of our reading from 0.05 to 0.03. The percentage of uncertainty can be calculated using this formula. 0.03 divided by the average value of the current and then times 100%. The percentage of uncertainty that we get is 1.94%. After this, we are going straight to the procedure. So I want you to pause the video, go to the procedure section of the experiment, read through the procedure. After you have read through the procedure, you can come back again to the video. Hello, welcome back. If you have read the procedure, this statement will make sense to you. The first part of the experiment, you are required to choose appropriate instrument to measure the lengths of various objects. Now I'm going to take you to the video showing all the instruments that you are going to use in the experiment. The first instrument is a meter ruler. It is a 2-point reading instrument. You are going to use the meter ruler to measure the length of the laboratory manual. You are going to measure the length across the width of the laboratory manuals. You are going to get 5 different readings. Next, we have a vernier caliper. You can open the box, take out the caliper. First, check for the zero error. You have your main scales and then you have your vernier scale. We are going to use the vernier caliper to measure the diameter of a coin. Next, we are going to use the same caliper to measure the diameter of the glass rod. This is the main scale, the rotating scale, the thimble and the ratchet. You are going to rotate the thimble until the spindle gets close to the anvil. When it is close enough, you are going to use the ratchet to close the gap. Check for the zero error. You are going to use the micrometer screw gauge to measure the diameter of the ball bearing. When the spindle gets close to the ball bearing, use the ratchet to close the gap. When you hear a click, you can lock the micrometer and you can start taking readings. In the second part of the experiment, you are going to use the traveling microscope to measure the internal diameter of a capillary tube. We are going to introduce you the traveling microscope and how to properly handle them. Let's go to the video. This is the traveling microscope. You have a microscope on a rail mounted on a very rigid bed. This is a side view. The focus of the microscope can be adjusted by turning the knob on the side. You can secure the microscope to the horizontal rail by tightening the screw. This screw on the side is used for fine adjustment. It will move the microscope along the horizontal rail. When you turn the screw, you will see the scale moving. You are going to use the magnifying lens to get the reading from the scale. The vertical rail can also be used to make adjustment to the position of the microscope. You have to place the capillary tube right under the microscope and bring the objective close to the capillary. You can further fine-tune the position of the objective using the knob on the side of the microscope. Look through the eyepiece and adjust the focus until the image of the capillary can be seen clearly. Adjust until you get this image. Record initial reading Turn the screw on the horizontal rails until the crosshair get to the other end of the capillary. Record the readings. The difference between the two readings is going to be the diameter of the capillary tube. You can repeat the measurement by bringing the crosshair back to the initial position. Record the initial readings and then record the final readings. And then find the difference. You get the diameter of the capillary tube.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Saya Engineer Sukairul akan berkongsi kepada anda tentang kerjaya di bidang kejuruteraan. Slide ini saya sediakan untuk Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia, di mana saya akan memberikan ceramah kepada 1,500 orang guru sains dari 3 buah negeri di Universiti Sains Islam Malaysia pada 9 hari bulan Mei 2017. Objektif ceramah kali ini adalah untuk memberi peluang kepada para guru sains untuk mengikuti kuliah dari seorang jurutera profesional yang berpengalaman dalam topik yang berkenaan. Yang kedua, memberi pendedahan kepada para guru sains bagaimana untuk menjadi jurutera selepas pelajar mereka lulus peperiksaan SPM ataupun STPM. Ketiga, memberi pendedahan kepada para guru sains akan bidang kerjaya sebagai jurutera serta imbuhan yang akan diperolehi. Keempat, memberi pendedahan kepada para guru sains mengenai skop kerja sebagai jurutera. Contoh kali ini adalah kajian kes saya di industri automotif. Kelima, memberi pendedahan kepada para guru sains tentang cabaran sebagai jurutera profesional. Dan yang terakhir, peranan Institution of Engineers Malaysia untuk pembangunan bidang kejuruteraan dan inisiatif IEM dalam menggalakkan sains, teknologi, engineering dan matematik di peringkat nasional. So, biodata saya mendapat pendidikan awal di Sekolah Menengah Metodis ACS Kelang, Selangor, dan seterusnya melanjutkan pengajian di Universiti Teknologi Malaysia, Skudai dalam bidang Sarjana Muda Kejuruteraan Mechanical / Aeronautical. Saya juga mendapat ijazah Sarjana Pentadbiran Perniagaan dari Charles Sturt University Australia. Saya juga didaftarkan sebagai jurutera profesional mechanical dengan sijil amalan sejak tahun 2001 dengan Lembaga Jurutera Malaysia. Pada masa ini, saya mengikuti pengajian kedoktoran ataupun PhD dalam perniagaan di Universiti Terbuka Malaysia di samping menjalankan perniagaan sendiri sebagai trainer ataupun coach. Saya aktif sebagai ahli jawatankuasa Persatuan Ibu Bapa dan Guru sebagai Yang di-Pertua PIBG, serta saya juga aktif di dalam Institution of Engineers Malaysia di Division Engineering Education Technical Division sebagai ahli jawatankuasa. Kerjaya profesional saya bermula di Syarikat Kereta Nasional sejak 1995 sebagai jurutera reka bentuk dan seterusnya menjawat berbagai jawatan lain di pelbagai jabatan selama hampir 18 tahun. Saya pernah menjadi branch manager, saya pernah menjadi pengurus operasi dan piawai jualan, pengurus teknikal dan waranti, pengurus peralatan dan penuntukuran, dan selepas itu saya bekerja dengan Essential Malaysia sebagai coach bagi projek kumpulan Dabler untuk melatih produk expert dan Star untuk kedua-dua jualan dan lepas jualan di semua pengedar Mercedes-Benz Malaysia. Semasa saya bersekolah dulu, saya aktif di dalam Persatuan Bahasa Malaysia yang saya pernah mengetuai sebagai ketua bahas sekolah saya dan berjaya menjadi Johan daerah Kelang. Okay. So semasa saya bekerja di Syarikat Kereta Nasional, kepakaran saya adalah untuk mencipta komponen seperti bumper, body kit, spoiler dan sebagainya, dan juga saya specialist dalam aerodynamic, anti-corrosion dan juga crash test. Okay. Kali ini saya akan berkongsi kepada anda bagaimana ingin menjadi jurutera selepas Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia atau STPM dan seterusnya menjadi jurutera profesional. So ini adalah carta alih di mana setiap murid bila melalui ujian PT3, beliau akan memilih sama ada untuk masuk ke aliran sains ataupun aliran sastra. So sekiranya beliau memilih aliran sastra, peluang untuk menjadi jurutera amatlah tipis. So kita kena galakkan mereka masuk ke aliran sains dengan berdasarkan keputusan yang mereka perolehi. Mereka diterima ke aliran sains dan seterusnya menduduki peperiksaan SPM. So untuk SPM ini, pelajar tersebut sekiranya ingin menjadi jurutera, beliau kenalah lulus cemerlang dalam subjek fizik, matematik tambahan, dan subjek lain lah seperti kimia, biologi, dan sebagainya lah. So selepas mereka lulus dalam SPM, untuk menjadi jurutera ada beberapa cabang yang mereka boleh pilih, sama ada terus untuk belajar untuk mendapat STPM, Form 6, atau tingkatan 6, ataupun mereka boleh pilih untuk mengikuti subjek kursus matrikulasi ataupun asasiasi sains, ataupun mereka boleh masuk ke STAM lah. STAM ni adalah tempat sekolah agama menengah tinggi, ataupun pelajar lulusan SPM tersebut boleh terus mengambil diploma kejuruteraan. So apabila mereka ni tersebut telah pun berjaya di peringkat STPN, peringkat STAM, matrikulasi ataupun diploma, mereka pun bolehlah untuk meneruskan pengajian di untuk kursus sarjana muda kejuruteraan bagi membolehkan beliau mencapai cita-cita sebagai jurutera. So semasa mereka berada di universiti, ini adalah asas-asas ilmu kejuruteraan yang diajar di universiti ke tahap profesional. So pada tahap kemasukan awal di universiti, untuk mencapai matlamat kejayaan sebagai jurutera, pelajar akan diajar subjek matematik, fizik, perhubungan maklumat dan teknologi komunikasi, bahan, reka bentuk dan pengeluaran. So semasa kursus tersebut, pelajar akan diberikan projek kumpulan dan akan melawat syarikat-syarikat kejuruteraan. Pelajar di tahap ini akan diberikan kefahaman tentang prinsip asas kejuruteraan, yang mana kemahiran matematik amat diperlukan pada tahun pertama kursus sarjana muda atau diploma kejuruteraan ini. Pelajar didedahkan kepada dunia kejuruteraan agar mereka menghargai teknologi dan dapat menyesuaikan diri dalam komponen-komponen asas kejuruteraan. So sebagai pelajar, mereka akan diajar bagaimana untuk melakukan pembelajaran sendiri, kajian dan kemahiran membuat persembahan, termasuklah bagaimana untuk menggunakan masa dan komunikasi dengan betul. Tidak lupa, yang tidak kurang pentingnya, kemahiran komputer dan perisian, contohnya AutoCAD, Excel dan sebagainya lah. So ketika tahap kemuncak pembelajaran mereka, mereka akan diberi pilihan untuk memilih cabang kejuruteraan yang mereka minat, seperti berikut. Sama ada nak masuk kursus kejuruteraan otomotif, kejuruteraan sains bahan, kejuruteraan aerospace atau aeronautik, kejuruteraan elektrik dan elektronik, kejuruteraan seni bina, kejuruteraan kimia, kejuruteraan awam dan kejuruteraan mekanikal tulen atau pengeluaran. So setelah tamat pengajian, mereka akan dianugerahkan diploma untuk tahap diploma, yang mana mereka boleh terus ke sektor pekerjaan atau untuk menyambungkan pelajaran ke tahap ijazah sarjana muda pula. So untuk peringkat sarjana muda, mereka setelah tamat pengajian bolehlah terus ke sektor pekerjaan ataupun meneruskan pengajian di peringkat sarjana dan selanjutnya ke peringkat kedoktoran. So selepas sarjana muda berpeluang untuk mendapatkan status jurutera profesional setelah memperolehi lebih 5 tahun pengalaman kerja serta lulus peperiksaan yang dikendalikan oleh Lembaga Jurutera Malaysia. So ada 4 bidang tradisi kejuruteraan. Pertama, kejuruteraan sivil, kejuruteraan elektrik, kejuruteraan mekanikal dan kejuruteraan kimia. So di sini saya persembahkan contoh-contoh bidang kejuruteraan masa kini. So kita ada aerospace, aeronautika, komputer, food and process, mineral, naval. Dan lembaga jurutera pun ada menyeraikan bidang-bidang cabang kejuruteraan, seperti civil, ada subset, contohnya water resources, hydraulic, contohnya structure, subset dia adalah construction, building, dan sebagainya lah, ya. So seterusnya elektronik pun begitu juga, ya, ada dia punya subset. Dan contohnya mechanical, ada subset mechanical and agriculture, mechanical in production, ya, mechanical in manufacturing system, and juga mechanical in automotive, So anda boleh lihatlah cabang-cabang kejuruteraan, ya, banyak bidang yang boleh anak murid-murid kita pelopori lah, Okey. Seterusnya saya akan kongsi kepada anda tentang bagaimana untuk menjadi jurutera profesional menerusi IEM. Okey. Ini adalah proses untuk menjadi professional engineer, ya. Pertama, bila murid-murid ataupun student ni telah graduate daripada universiti, mereka dalam masa tempoh 6 bulan, ya, mereka kena berdaftar dengan lembaga jurutera Malaysia, So kena dapatkanlah IR lain, untuk job sijil universiti tersebut, So lepas tu bila lulus sebagai graduate engineer, barulah kandidat tersebut akan melalui proses selama 3 tahun, membuat laporan, membuat kajian dan sebagainya, kalau IEM ni kena ada mentor lah, di samping itu juga kena mengikuti kursus-kursus untuk melengkapkan PDP, lepas tu lepas minimum 3 tahun relevant working experience, sama ada melalui sistem pull-up, barulah kandidat calon tersebut layak untuk untuk pergi untuk exam, professional interview exam, and then sekiranya lulus, mereka akan dilantik sebagai member, komiti sebagai member, corporate member, and then seterusnya layak untuk pergi ke BEM, diiktiraf sebagai IR, professional engineer, So kali ini sistem IR baru telah ditubuhkan, di mana ada IR yang without practicing certificate dan ada IR yang ada practicing certificate lah, So buat masa ni telah pun ada ujian untuk IR go for practicing certificate, So di samping itu juga setiap engineer ataupun IR kena untuk practicing certificate kena ada 50 jam CPD setahun. Bagi yang tak ada practicing certificate, IR saja, nama tak IR, hanya perlukan 25 jam CPD lah. Okey. So gaji untuk lepasan universiti dalam bidang kejuruteraan mekanikal, contohnya kajian yang dibuat oleh Jobstreet, pada tahun 2017, kita boleh tengoklah, contohnya gaji otomotif, gaji purata minima hanyalah 1,658, so gaji purata maksimum adalah 2,439, so kita boleh tengoklah, gaji saya masuk pada tahun 1995, sama je gaji yang diterima pada masa ini, disebabkan faktor-faktor ekonomi, yang tak mengizinkan dan sebagainya lah. So kalau anda boleh tengok di sini, gaji sebagai jurutera yang tertinggi sekali di bahagian oil and gas ataupun petroleum lah, So untuk graduate engineer, masuk kerja, gaji dah cecah 2,000 lebih, 2,380, dan gaji purata maksimum lebih kurang 3,400 ataupun 3,300, So untuk berbincang ataupun untuk berkongsi tentang kejuruteraan ni, so kita kena kembali balik, go back to basic tentang kewujudan sains dan teknologi di zaman kegemilangan Islam, So kita sering sangkakan hidup 1,000 tahun lalu seperti sukar dan gelap, tetapi itu tidak benar, So walau bagaimanapun, bagi setengah orang, tahun 1600 adalah zaman kegemilangan tamadun, kerana masyarakat telah bertambah maju melalui inovasi, pendidikan dan kreativiti, So semuanya disokong oleh eksperimen daripada saintifik yang tegar Dan yang paling menakjubkan sekali, ianya diasaskan oleh orang-orang Islam terdahulu. So kita ingatkan Mak Saleh saja ataupun orang Jepun yang pelopori kejuruteraan tapi sebenarnya dimulakan oleh orang Islam. Okay. So kalau you lihat di sini warisan saintifik Muslim dalam sejarah kita, selepas saja Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam turun ayat Al-Quran diturunkan kepada beliau, so kita tengoklah selepas Nabi Muhammad wafat, so contohnya kubah batu yang dibina oleh Khalifah Abdullah di Jerusalem, kemudian sebuah kilang kertas di Baghdad pertama kali disebut, so ahli matematik Al-Khawazir dilahirkan dan menyumbang kepada algebra, di mana bermulanya tamadun sains, teknologi dan matematik ini selepas Nabi Muhammad wafat. So you boleh tengoklah dia punya carta pergerakan sejarah dahulu. So kita boleh tengok pada tahun 852 Abbas Ibnu Firnas yang mencipta pesawat terbang. Kita ingatkan Mak Saleh Bright Brothers, sebenarnya Abbas Ibnu Firnas yang telah orang pertama yang mencipta kapal terbang lah. So kita boleh tengok sejarah tamadun orang Islam, and then kita boleh lihat orang Eropah baru start masuk ke bidang kejuruteraan ni pada tahun 1140. Aristotle wujud, Robert dari Chester, kincir angin, ini semua daripada tamadun Eropah. Sebenarnya daripada tamadun Islam telah pun bermula dulu. Okey, so kita boleh lihat pada tahun 1206 Al-Jazari mencipta jam gajah. Maksudnya orang Islam yang mencipta jam ni. Kalau tak ada orang Islam cipta dulu, sampai sekarang pun kita mungkin tak ada guide untuk masa. Kita lakukan saja tidak ada guidance. Dan seterusnya lah. You boleh tengok kisah sejarah tamadun Islam. Ini Al-Jazari, jurutera Islam yang awal, yang memberikan sumbangan yang paling penting dalam STEM atau Science, Technology, Engineering dan Matematik. So you all boleh tengoklah warisan saintifik Muslim dalam dunia kita. Lepas tu bila kita nak pelopori bidang lain, contohnya kejuruteraan otomotif, kita kena refer balik sejarah lah. Sejarah otomotif dulu kita tengok dia tidak bermula daripada orang Islam, dia bermula daripada orang-orang Eropah. Contohnya kereta Mercedes-Benz, motor wagon dicipta oleh Carl Benz, mendapat paten Jerman pada tahun 1886. So mana negara Islam tak wujud, sehinggalah pada tahun bila pada tahun 1983 Tun Dr. Mahathir melahirkan hasrat untuk melancarkan kereta nasional, dan pada tahun 1983 Proton ditubuhkan. And then pada tahun 1992 syarikat kedua Pro2 juga turut ditubuhkan. So di dalam proses kebentuk kejuruteraan otomotif, kita boleh tengoklah kerja yang dibuat oleh jurutera, contohnya di bahagian R&D, daripada 3D design, CAE, sampailah reality, semua yang perlukan kepakaran daripada jurutera lah. And then proses pembuatan kereta menggunakan aplikasi robotik. Kalau you all pergi ke kilang kereta nasional, ini adalah proses pembuatan kereta di mana perlukan kepakaran jurutera bekerja bersama dengan robot, bekerja dengan alat-alat yang canggih-canggih ni lah. Ini pentingnya jurutera dalam pembinaan kemajuan industri otomotif nasional. You boleh tengok kat sini. Okay, alright. So dalam proses pembuatan kereta diperlukan berbagai konsep, contohnya konsep reka bentuk alat, konsep FMEA, konsep pembuatan dan berbagai lagi lah. Dan dalam contohnya di Proton Holding, ini adalah salah satu dari pembuatan kereta nasional. di kilang proton Shah Alam dan juga di kilang proton Tanjung Malim di mana pembuatan kereta ini dilakukan oleh jurutera-jurutera yang berkaliber. Ini contoh daripada stamping sehinggalah kereta tu dihantar kepada pelanggan. Okey. So apakah cabaran yang dihadapi oleh jurutera profesional, contohnya dalam industri otomotif? Bukan saja industri otomotif, maybe mungkin juga dalam industri kejuruteraan yang lain. Okey. Ini adalah petikan berita pada tahun 2009 di mana masa itu negara hanya mempunyai 60,000 jurutera, tapi matlamat pada masa itu untuk tahun 2020 negara memerlukan seramai 200,000 orang jurutera. So ini adalah bilangan jurutera di mana korporat ni adalah yang mempunyai nama berpangkal IR, sama ada with practicing certificate ataupun without practicing certificate, di mana mereka yang ada IR ni berdaftar seramai 11,449, dari IM pula seramai 10,000. Graduate ni tidak mempunyai IR, mereka berdaftar dengan BEM, jumlah mereka seramai 90,000 orang. Tapi di IEM yang berdaftar dengan IEM hanya 9,148 orang. So ahli yang banyak dekat IEM ni adalah student ataupun student universiti yang menjadi member untuk IEM. Okey. So apa jurutera perlu lakukan untuk menjadi lebih berdaya saing dalam pasaran? So mereka perlu menjadi pekerja berpengetahuan untuk bersaing dalam industri. So 4 pilar tonggak ataupun tiang pendidikan yang diperlukan untuk melahirkan seorang jurutera profesional yang berkualiti. Contohnya sistem pendidikan Malaysia kena wajibkan aktiviti kurikulum, wujudkan mata pelajaran atau aliran, pembangunan modal insan, falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan, pembelajaran sepanjang hayat, education for all, and then lepas tu ada belajar untuk menguasai ilmu, belajar untuk menguasai kemahiran, belajar untuk menjadi insan berguna, dan terakhir belajar untuk hidup harmoni. So kat sini you boleh tengoklah, learn to know, learn to do, learn to be, and learn to live together. Okay. So inisiatif IEM dalam memperkasakan pendidikan STEM. So ini adalah surat kelulusan dari Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. Contohnya pada surat bertarikh 13 Februari, di mana Kementerian Bahagian Pengurusan Sekolah Harian daripada Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia memberikan surat sokongan untuk menganjurkan program atau aktiviti bidang kejuruteraan bersama sekolah-sekolah kerajaan dan swasta. So IEM boleh bergerak masuk ke sekolah-sekolah untuk aktiviti-aktiviti yang dirasakan perlu untuk memperkasakan STEM. So contohnya ini adalah surat bertarikh 9 November 2016 di mana Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia membenarkan IEM untuk menganjurkan program aktiviti ataupun bidang kejuruteraan bersama sekolah-sekolah kerajaan dan swasta. So ini adalah aktiviti ceramah STEM oleh IEM, Engineering Education Technical Division. Contohnya pada tahun 2014 bulan 9, di mana sekolah sekitar Tanjung Malim telah dikumpulkan dan ceramah dijalankan di UPSI. Dan STEM program ini dianjurkan oleh UPSI untuk program UNESCO dan seminar diberikan oleh Engineer Sukairul saya lah. Boleh tengoklah 2016, contoh 2015 saya sendiri mengadakan ceramah di Sekolah Menengah Metodis ACS Kelang. Sini boleh tengok. Sini adalah aktiviti ceramah. Contoh yang terakhir pada 31 bulan 3 2017, saya telah memberikan ceramah kepada Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Bukit Tinggi Kelang, di mana seramai orang, 50 pelajar mengambil bahagian. Ya. Ini adalah contoh gambar yang diambil masa saya bagi ceramah. Ia adalah student sekolah menengah kebangsaan Bukit Tinggi Kelang yang berjumlah 350 orang, dan sesi ini juga bersama dengan guru-guru mereka lah. Ya, ini contohnya di sekolah menengah Methodist ACS Kelang pada tahun 2015. Seramai 200 orang mengambil bahagian bila saya membagi ceramah pasal STEM lah. Di samping memberi ceramah, IM juga ada pertandingan esei. Pertandingan esei adalah untuk memupuk kesedaran di kalangan pelajar mengenai kepentingan bidang kejuruteraan terhadap masyarakat umumnya dan manusia khususnya. Dan projek ini juga dapat menyemai minat di kalangan pelajar-pelajar dalam bidang kejuruteraan yang canggih dan dinamik. Dan ketiga, menggalakkan pemahaman dan keprihatinan pelajar terhadap kepelbagaian dan kekhususan dalam disiplin kejuruteraan.
You can manage your team's work easily with Monday.com. Just go to Monday.com and start tracking any project or workflow in minutes. Yeah, minutes. What? You don't believe me because I'm an actor?
We already know what real numbers are. These are the numbers that can be represented on the number line. We also know that real numbers can be broadly classified as rational and irrational numbers. Rational numbers are those that can be represented as ratio of two integers with no common factor. Irrational numbers, on the other hand, cannot be expressed as ratio of two integers, and when expressed in decimal notation, they are non-terminating, non-recurring decimals. Are there any other kinds of numbers? Numbers that we haven't looked at yet? Before you answer that question, let me ask you another one. Can you think of a number which when squared results in a negative number? Yes, a number which when multiplied with itself gives a negative number. Try it. You'd have probably tried a few options. 3 times 3 is 9, positive. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Again positive. Negative root 3 times negative root 3 is 3. Positive again. No luck. We'll come back to this. Don't worry. So we studied quadratic equations in middle school. We know that if x squared minus 9 is equal to 0, x is either equal to 3 or negative 3. Now try to find a solution to x squared plus 1 equal to 0. Not sure? Or do you think there's no solution to this one? Don't worry if you couldn't get the answer to these two questions. Let's understand the situation now. Whenever we considered the square of a number, say x, the result was always positive, whether the number x was a positive real number or a negative one. We always got a positive result. And we had learned that a negative number did not have a square root. So if we had a number like negative 9, we said that its square root did not exist. Do you remember that while finding the solution of a quadratic equation using the formula, if the discriminant b squared minus 4ac was negative, we said that there are no real roots of the quadratic equation. Based on what we had studied earlier, x squared plus 1 equal to 0 will not have any real roots as the value of discriminant is negative 4. Why did we do this? What was the problem here? It's easy. As the square root of negative 1 did not exist for us, we said that there was no solution for the equation x squared plus 1 equals 0. However, in the 16th century, it was a mathematician named Cardan who first started thinking about solutions of quadratic equations with negative discriminants. Soon, others started too, but it was Euler in the 18th century who gave the square root of negative 1 a symbol I and called it the unit imaginary number. These were termed so as they were thought to be impossible and just something we imagined. So I was assumed to be a number whose square is negative 1. Now you'll be able to answer the two questions. Can you think of a number which when squared results in a negative number? Yes, it's I. If square root of negative 1 is I, what is I times I or I squared? It is root negative 1 times root negative 1. That gives us negative 1. There you go. We got a negative number by squaring a number. And the next question was, can you find a solution to x squared plus 1 equal to 0? The answer is yes. Transposing 1 to the right-hand side, we get x squared as negative 1. Taking the square root on both sides, we get the value of x as root of negative 1 or minus root of negative 1. That is plus minus I. So what we learned in school wasn't incorrect. This equation has no real roots. Yes, it has imaginary roots. That's the concept of imaginary numbers for you. But wait, we understood the concept of square root of negative 1. What if the number is square root of negative 7 or square root of negative 9? That's what we will cover in the next video. In the previous session, we understood the concept of a unit imaginary number I. It is the square root of negative 1. If we square it, we get root of negative 1 times root of negative 1, which equals negative 1. The square of the unit imaginary number is negative 1. Well, let us now try to work out more powers of I. What will be I cubed then? Try it out. I cubed is I times I times I. We can write it as I squared multiplied by I. Now as I squared is equal to negative 1, I cubed is negative 1 multiplied by I or negative I. So the value of I cubed is negative I. You can now similarly work out fourth power of I. Give it a try. The fourth power of I can be written as I squared multiplied by I squared. This is nothing but negative 1 multiplied by negative 1. And we already know that negative 1 multiplied by negative 1 is 1. Hence the fourth power of I is just 1. So I squared is negative 1, I cubed is negative I, and fourth power of I is 1. Can you similarly work out further powers like fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth powers of I? Try it out and you will observe something interesting. And this is what we would get. Notice the cyclical pattern in the powers. I, negative 1, negative I, 1, and then again I, negative 1, negative I, and then 1. This is one way in which we can understand it. First power, second power, third power, and fourth power. Then repeat. Fifth power, sixth power, seventh power, and eighth power. And this will go on. So what is I? It is just a unit imaginary number and is equal to the square root of negative 1. Why do I keep saying the word unit? To understand that, let's look at an example. What will the square root of negative 9 be equal to? If we try it out on a non-fancy calculator, it would say that the input is invalid. That's because most calculators are not programmed to use imaginary numbers. So how do we understand the square root of negative 9? It can be written as square root of 9 times negative 1, right? And we know a property of exponents which says that square root of a times b is equal to the square root of a times the square root of b. So this can be written as square root of 9 times the square root of negative 1. The square root of 9 is 3 and square root of negative 1 is I. So the square root of negative 9 is 3i. This is 3 times I. And this is also an imaginary number. But it's not a unit imaginary number as it's 3 times I. But the unit number I is 1 times I and hence it's called a unit imaginary number. Basically, any real number times I is an imaginary number. For instance, this is how we would write square root of negative 121 over 49. We get 11 over 7 times I. It's a real number times I. So numbers like 0.145i, 16.25i, minus cube root of 7i are also imaginary numbers. An imaginary number is simply b times I, where b is the real number and I is the imaginary number. So if tomorrow morning, what if your dad asks you, are imaginary numbers real? How would you answer that question? Well, it's a tricky question. You should tell him that imaginary numbers are not real numbers. They cannot be plotted on a real number line. But they are real in the sense that they exist in mathematics and are used widely in various applications. What kind of applications? We'll see that next.
Hi guys, let's continue on tutorial part 2, chapter 1, Matter. Let's talk about elements. Elements is a substance that cannot be separated into a simpler substances by any chemical means. In a periodic table, elements are arranged in order of increasing proton number. There are 115 elements have been identified in the periodic tables. 83 elements occur naturally on Earth, for example, gold, aluminium, lead, oxygen, and carbon. And there are 32 elements have been created by scientists, example, technetium, americium, and symposium. Let's look into a group. A vertical column of elements in periodic table is called a group. There are 18 groups in the periodic tables. The elements of particular group share similar chemical properties because they have the same number of valence electrons. The groups in the periodic tables are numbered from 1 to 18. Elements in the same group have the same number of valence electrons. Now let's look at period. A horizontal row of elements in the periodic tables is known as a period. The periods in the periodic tables are numbered from 1 to 7. The elements are arranged according to the increasing proton numbers in the periodic tables. Period number equal to number of shells, so as principal quantum numbers and symbol as n. The electrons are arranged in the shell as follows. The first shells will occupy a maximum of 2 electrons, whereas for the second shells, the maximum electron is as 8 electrons and the third shell should be 8 electrons. Now let's talk about group, a vertical column of elements in periodic tables. Group 1, known as 1A, Group 2 as 2A, Group 17 as 7A, Group 18 as 8A. Group 1A, alkali metals. The 1A family is made up of the alkali metals. In reaction, these elements are all tends to lose a single electron. These some important elements such as sodium and potassium play an important role in the chemistry of the body and are commonly found in salts. Group 2, or as known as 2A, is alkaline earth metals. The 2A family is made up of the alkaline earth metals. All these elements tend to lose 2 electrons. Calcium is an important member of the 2A families. You need calcium for healthy teeth and bones. Group 17 or 7A is halogens. The 7A families is made up of the halogens. They are all to gain a single electron in reactions. Important members in the family include chlorine, used in making salts and bleach, and iodine. Group 18, or so as 8A, a noble gas. The 8A family is made up of the noble gases. These elements are very unreactive. For a long time, the noble gases were called the inert gases because people thought that this element wouldn't react at all. Now let's talk about periodic tables. Group 1, 1A as alkaline metals, Group 2, 2A as alkaline earth metals, Group 17, 7A as halogen, Group 18, 8A as inert or noble gases. So let us see a beautiful diagram of periodic tables. Everyone knows about periodic tables. Okay, for a group that is vertical columns, they have 1 until 18 groups, and for period that is horizontal rows is called a period. We have 1 until 7 period. So all those coloring, it shows a different, the same color shows the type of the elements are arrangements in the periodic tables. So elements are arranged increasing proton numbers in the periodic tables. We have alkaline metals, alkaline earth metals, transition metals.
In the previous videos, we learned that it is possible to have square root of a negative number, but it involved using a new number I, which is equal to the square root of -1. These numbers are called imaginary numbers and could be of the form bi, where b is a real number and I is equal to square root of -1. Numbers like I, 2i, -4i are all imaginary numbers. What if we have a number like 3 plus 7i? Will this be an imaginary number? Well, we can be sure that this part of the number is imaginary and this part is a real number. So this is a mix of real and imaginary parts. And this is what we call an example of a complex number. Real plus imaginary gives us a complex number. It's of the form a plus bi, where a and b are real numbers and I is the unit imaginary number. Now let's play around with this basic form. Observe that when a is equal to 0, what is left will be an imaginary number. And when b is equal to 0, we only have a real number. So what are the real and imaginary parts in the basic form of a complex number? A is called the real part and bi is called the imaginary part. Now let me ask you something interesting. When will the two complex numbers a plus bi and c plus di be equal? They
Good morning. Today we will going to study accounting 1.
Need a professional website? I created one for our startup using Wix. Let me show you how I did it. First, go to wix.com.
In the previous videos, we learned that it is possible to have square root of a negative number, but it involved using a new number I, which is equal to the square root of -1. These numbers are called imaginary numbers and could be of the form bi, where b is a real number and I is equal to square root of -1. Numbers like I, 2i, -4i are all imaginary numbers. What if we have a number like 3 plus 7i? Will this be an imaginary number? Well, we can be sure that this part of the number is imaginary and this part is a real number. So this is a mix of real and imaginary parts. And this is what we call an example of a complex number. Real plus imaginary gives us a complex number. It's of the form a plus bi, where a and b are real numbers and I is the unit imaginary number. Now let's play around with this basic form. Observe that when a is equal to 0, what is left will be an imaginary number. And when b is equal to 0, we only have a real number. So what are the real and imaginary parts in the basic form of a complex number? A is called the real part and bi is called the imaginary part. Now let me ask you something interesting. When will the two complex numbers a plus bi and c plus di be equal? They will be equal only if both the conditions are satisfied. First, a is equal to c and second, b is equal to d. Yes, only if a is equal to c and b is equal to d will the two complex numbers be equal. Real parts equal and the imaginary parts as well are equal. However, though real numbers are comprehensible, why are we moving towards complex numbers? Do they lead to anything worthwhile? There were doubts about it, even among mathematicians who initially developed this concept. While some did not believe in them, others were desperately trying to prove their existence. Still, the journey continued and complex numbers were finally allowed by mathematicians. Today, though most people may find complex numbers incomprehensible or difficult to understand, they do exist in some form and serve the purpose of understanding of nature. Engineers use it to study stresses on beams, phenomena of resonance, and the flow of fluid around objects such as water around a pipe. They make it easy to understand the flow of current through electronic circuits using resistances, inductance, and capacitors. They are also used in electromagnetism, where rather than trying to describe an electromagnetic field by two real quantities separately, they are described as a single complex number of which electric and magnetic components are simply the real and imaginary parts. How exactly are they used here? Well, it's an advanced topic which we will cover in our graduation level math videos. In the previous video, we learned about adding complex numbers. To add two complex numbers, we simply add the real parts separately and imaginary parts separately to get a new complex number. We also note that multiplication of two numbers, say 7 times 3, is just adding 7 thrice. That is 7 plus 7 plus 7, which equals 21. Is it that easy in complex numbers? How can two complex numbers be multiplied? Let us multiply 7 plus 2i with 3 plus 4i. We know that a times b plus c will give us a times b plus a times c. It's the distribution property. So this can be written as 7 plus 2i times 3 plus 7 plus 2i times 4i. Now focus on the first part. 7 plus 2i times 3. It will be this number added thrice. 7 plus 2i can be added thrice to get 7 plus 7 plus 7 as real part and 2i plus 2i plus 2i as the imaginary part. This is 21 and this is 6i. The result is 21 plus 6i. We actually use the distribution property here. 7 times 3 plus 2i times 3. 21 plus 6i. The second part is still pending. How do we account for multiplication of 7 plus 2i with 4i? This added times 4i does not make sense. But we can still use the distribution property here. Multiplying 7 plus 2i with 4i, we get 28i plus 8 times I squared, which is nothing but 28i plus 8 multiplied by negative 1. This is nothing but 28i plus negative 8. This expression equals the product of these two complex numbers. To get the final expression, let's add the real parts and the imaginary parts separately. We get the real part as 21 minus 8 and imaginary part as 6i plus 28i. Hence, 7 plus 2i multiplied by 3 plus 4i gives us 13 plus 34i. Let us pick up two more complex numbers, 3 plus 5i and negative 2 plus 4i, and work out their multiplication. Would you like to try it first? We can use the distribution property here to write this as 3 plus 5i times negative 2 plus 3 plus 5i times 4i. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, and 5i times negative 2 is negative 10i. We get negative 6 minus 10i. Similarly, 3 plus 5i multiplied by 4i will give us 12i plus 20i squared. As I squared is negative 1, this can be written as 12i minus 20. And the last step is to add the real parts and the imaginary parts separately. We get negative 6 minus 20 or negative 26 as real part, and negative 10i plus 12i or 2i as imaginary part. Hence their product is negative 26 plus 2i. In both the cases, we saw that a product of two complex numbers gave us another complex number. Is that always true? Keep this question in mind and try solving the next example. Try multiplying 2 minus 7i with 2 plus 7i. We will see the solution in the next part of the video.
Atasi halangan untuk maju ke hadapan. Atasi cabaran dalam apa jua keadaan. Atasi perbezaan untuk menjalin ikatan yang kukuh. Atasi batasan dengan pelindungan yang lengkap. Shell Advance, jenama minyak enjin motosikal pilihan nombor 1 penunggang Malaysia. Atasi segalanya. Percuma bandana Shell Advance dengan setiap pembelian AX7.
This is where we left off in the previous part. We have to multiply 2 minus 7i with 2 plus 7i. Try it out. As we have practiced multiplication of complex numbers, let's solve this one quickly. Multiplying 2 minus 7i with 2 gives us 4 minus 14i. And multiplying 2 minus 7i with 7i, we get 14i minus 49 times I squared, which is nothing but 14i plus 49. Adding the real and imaginary parts separately, we get the real part as 4 plus 49, that is 53, and imaginary part as negative 14i plus 14i, which is 0i. That's interesting. 0i is nothing but 0. The imaginary part is 0. Hence, 2 minus 7i multiplied by 2 plus 7i gives us 53 plus 0i, or just 53, which is a real number. Multiplication of two different complex numbers gave us a real number here. So that should tell us that multiplication of two complex numbers may result in a real or a complex number. Look at this case carefully. We have 2 plus 7i and 2 minus 7i. The real parts are the same, and the imaginary parts are also the same. Just the sign of the imaginary numbers that differs. So let us try a general complex number, a plus bi, and multiply it with a minus bi. Solving this gives us a squared plus b squared as the final answer. And this will be a real number as we are just adding the squares of two real numbers. So if we knew this, we could have directly written the answer for the previous example as 2 squared plus 7 squared. 4 plus 49 is 53. We didn't really need to do all this. But anyway, how can we summarize this? The product of two complex numbers with equal real parts and with imaginary parts having opposite signs will result in a real number. Here's something we need to know about this concept. A plus bi and a minus bi are called complex conjugates of each other. Same real parts and opposite signs of imaginary parts. Complex conjugate numbers are very useful and we will use them further in our coming videos.
Hello everyone, so now I'm going to discuss the topic 1.2 complex number for the example 7. So compute the conjugate complex number for the following. So kindly referring to 7a. So a, we have the z or the complex number as 4 minus 7i. And the conjugate of z would be 4 plus 7i. Next, b, the z or the complex number is negative 1 plus 2i. And the complex number will be, the conjugate for the complex number will be negative 1 minus 2i. Next will be question C. The complex number z is equals to 4 plus 5i. And the conjugate for the z would be 4 minus 5i. Finally, for question D, the z or the complex number is negative 2, negative 3i. And the conjugate for the z is equals to negative 2 plus 3i. So here we are, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, so now I'm going to discuss for the topic 1.2 complex number for the example 6a. Represent the following in the standard form. So now refers to 6a is a square root of negative 9. It can be represented as square root of 9 multiplied with negative 1. So by using the properties of square root, we can separate them as square root of 9 multiplied with square root of negative 1. So by referring to square root of 9, we will have 3. Multiply with square root of negative 1, it is represented as I. So finally, square root of negative 9 is equals to 3 times I. This is what we call an imaginary number. So now let's refer to 6b. 4 plus square root of negative 6. So 4 plus square root of 6 multiplied with negative 1. So we can use the properties to separate the square root of 6 multiplied with negative 1, which is 4 plus square root of 6 multiplied with square root of negative 1. So we can simplify the situation, become 4 plus square root of 6 multiplied with I. So finally, 4 plus square root of negative 6 is equals to 4 plus square root of 6i. 4 plus square root of 6i is a complex number. So now I'm going to discuss for the question 6c. So repeat the procedure. I'm going to simplify the situation. So first, the square root of negative 4 can be expressed as 4 multiplied with negative 1 plus, for the square root of negative 9, it can be expressed as 9 multiplied negative 1. So now we can simplify the situation by using the properties. So which is square root of 4 multiplied with square root of negative 1 plus, again repeat the situation. So we have square root of 9 multiplied with square root of negative 1. So simplify, the square root of 4 will become 2, and the square root of negative 1 would be I, plus the square root of 9 will be 3. The square root for negative 1 will be I. So now the final answer would be square root of negative 4 plus the square root of negative 9, which is equals to 5i, and it is a imaginary number. So now I'm going to discuss the question 6d. First step, I'm going to split the situation, become negative 2 over 5 minus square root of negative 25 over 5. Next, my focus will be square root of negative 25. So we will have negative 2 over 5 minus, by using the properties, we will have square root of 25
multiply with negative 1 over 5. We can still simplify the situation, become negative 2 over 5 minus square root of 25 multiply with square root of negative 1 over 5. Then we will have negative 5i over 5. So finally, our answer will be negative 205 minus I. So we have a complex number. So here we are, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone. So now I'm going to discuss for the topic 1.2 complex number for the example 8. If z sub 1 is equals to negative 2 plus 5i and the z sub 2 is equals to 3 minus 4i, solve the following and write each answer in standard form. So now we have to refer the question A. Z sub 1 plus Z sub 2 is equals to negative 2 plus 5i plus with 3 minus 4i. So now we have to refer to the real part. So by simplifying the situation, and we have 1. Next, kindly refers to the imaginary part. So 5 minus 4i, and we will have 1i. So z sub 1 plus z sub 2 is equals to 1 plus I, which is a complex number. So now we are going to refer to the example 8b. So b, we have z sub 1 minus z sub 2, which is equals to negative 2 plus 5i minus, we have z sub 2, which is equals to 3 minus 4i. Now we have to expand, and at the same time we arrange based on the parts. So negative 2 plus 5i minus 3 plus 4i. Please refer to the real part and simplify the situation, and we have negative 5. Then followed by observe the imaginary part. 5i plus 4i, and we will have plus 9i. So the final answer for z sub 1 minus z sub 2 is equals to negative 5 plus 9i, which is a complex number. So now kindly refer to example 8c, which is 3 multiplied with z sub 1. So we will have 3 multiplied with negative 2 plus 5i. So kindly expand. So we will have negative 6 plus 15i. So the answer for 3 multiplication with the z sub 1 is equals to negative 6 plus 15i. So which is a complex number. So here we are, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone. So now I'm going to discuss for the topic 1.2 complex number for the example 8 part 2. So now refers to 8d, question given that z sub 1 multiply with z sub 2. So z sub 1 multiply with z sub 2. So equals to negative 2 plus 5i multiply with 3 minus 4i. So we have to expand the situation. So first, negative 2 multiply with 3, and we will have negative 6. Followed by negative 2 multiply with negative 4, and we will have plus 8i. Next, followed by 5i multiplied with 3. And we will have plus 15i. Next, 5i multiplied with negative 4i. So we will have negative 20i squared. As we mentioned earlier, I squared actually is equals to negative 1. So again, we will have negative 6 plus 8i plus 15i negative 20 multiplied with negative 1. So we will have negative 6 plus 20 plus, for this part, it is a imaginary part. So 8 plus 15, we will have 23i. So finally, z sub 1 multiplied with z sub 2 is equals to 14 plus 23i. So now we are going to discuss for the question 8e. The conjugate of z sub 1 multiplied with z sub 2. So z sub 1, the conjugate, multiplied with z sub 2, which is equals to negative 2 minus 5i. The conjugate for z sub 1. Multiply with 3 minus 4i. We are going to repeat the situation by expanding the complex number. So at first, negative 2 multiplied with 3, we will have negative 6. Next, negative 2 multiplied with negative 4, we will have positive 8i. Next, it will be negative 5i multiplied with 3. So we will have negative 15i. Finally, negative 5i multiplied with negative 4i. So we will have positive 20i squared. As we mentioned earlier, I squared is equals to negative 1. So negative 6 minus 7i plus 20 multiplied with negative 1. So we will have negative 6 minus 20 minus 7i. So finally, we have negative 26 minus 7i. And it is the answer for z, conjugate of z sub 1 multiplied with z sub 2, which is a complex number. So now we are going to discuss for the final part. Okay, so which is a conjugate for the multiplication of z sub 1 with z sub 2. So z sub 1 multiplied with z sub 2. So kindly refer to the answer in D. The answer is 14 plus 23i. So that is the answer we have in D. So now refer to the situation. The conjugate for z sub 1 multiplied with z sub 2. So meaning that we have to find the conjugate for 14 plus 23i. So our answer would be 14 minus 23i. So here we are, and thanks for watching.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera kepada semua pelajar-pelajar. Okay, baik. Pada pagi ini ataupun kuliah yang pertama ini, kita akan belajar satu tajuk baru ataupun topik baru, iaitu perniagaan dan persekitaran. Okay, dalam perniagaan dan persekitaran ini, yang mula-mula sekali kita akan lihat satu persatu, iaitu pengenalan perniagaan. Okay. Di bawah pengenalan perniagaan ini terdapat 3 elemen subtopik, iaitu definisi perniagaan, B. Elemen perniagaan. Dan yang C atau yang ketiga ialah proses perniagaan. Baik, kita lihat subtopik yang pertama iaitu perniagaan. Apakah yang dikatakan dengan perniagaan? Perniagaan adalah satu aktiviti jual beli barang ataupun perkhidmatan dengan menggunakan wang atau alatan lain bagi memenuhi keperluan dan kehendak pelanggan pada masa, harga dan tempat yang sesuai untuk mendapatkan keuntungan, faedah dan kepuasan. Okey. Elemen yang kedua atau subtopik yang kedua ialah elemen perniagaan. Elemen perniagaan ini terdapat 5 iaitu aktiviti jual beli, barang atau perkhidmatan, keperluan dan kehendak, konsep keuntungan, konsep faedah dan kepuasan. Kelima-lima ini mesti ada ataupun sebagai elemen perniagaan. Yang ketiga, subtopik ketiga ialah proses perniagaan. Proses perniagaan terdiri daripada 5 iaitu input, proses transformasi atau tambah nilai. Yang ketiga, output. Setelah ada output, kita mesti jual iaitu jualan. Setelah jual, kita mendapat untung. Bila dapat untung, kita berbalik kepada semula kepada input dan prosesnya berterusan.
Hello everyone. So now I'm going to discuss for the topic 1.2 complex number for the example 9. So question asks us to express 1 over 2 plus 4i in the form of a plus bi. Kindly refer for the both side. First, we refer to the left hand side. The denominator is a complex number, which is a 2 plus 4i. When we refer to the right hand side, the denominator for a plus bi is equals to 1, which is a real number. So in order to make sure the complex number for the left hand side become a real number, we need to multiply with a conjugate. So this is the way how we find the answer. So 1 over 2 plus 4i multiply with the conjugate. So it will become 2 minus 4i over 2 minus 4i. So kindly expand. So we will have 2 minus 4i over 4 minus 8i plus 8i minus 16i square. As we all know, I square is equals to negative 1. So rewrite over 4 plus 16. Because here we can simplify, it becomes 0. So finally, our answer will become 2 minus 4i over 20. So question asks us to express in the form of a plus bi. So which is a real part and imaginary part. So we have to split. So we will have 1 over 10 minus I over 5. So which is equals to A plus BI. So here we are, and thanks for watching.
Good morning. Today we will going to study Accounting 1. Good morning. Today is the first day we learn financial accounting. The first chapter we will learn today is Introduction to Accounting. On this
Hello everyone. So now I'm going to discuss for the example 13. Represent the following complex number on an Argand diagram. Then find the modulus and argument for the complex number. Finally, write the Cartesian form in the polar form. So example 13a, it is a Cartesian form where z is equals to 3 plus 4i. Step number 1, represent in the Argand diagram, meaning that the location of z. So in here, we have an imaginary axis, and this one is a real axis. So for the real part, it is equals to 3. For the imaginary part, it is equals to 4. So it is located in the first quadrant. Next, we are going to find the modulus. So in here, the modulus of z is equals to square root of a. In here, a is equals to 3, so it becomes 9 plus b squared. So in here, b is equals to 4, so we will have 16. Finally, the modulus of z is equals to 5. Next, we are going to find the theta. So in this case, the theta is located in the first quadrant. By substituting the value for b and a, the arctangent for b is equals to 4 and the a is equals to 3. So theta will be equals to 53.13 in degree, and if in radian, we will have 0.927. Please take note, we only take 3 significant figures. Where is the argument of z? Argument of z is the angle measured from the positive x-axis. So begins with 0. So here would be our argument of z. So in this case, since this is anti-clockwise, so the angle will be a positive. So the argument of z will be 0.927. Do remember to express your answer for argument of z in radian, in the form of radian. So finally, in polar form, z will be equals to 5 bracket cos theta 0.927 plus I sine 0.927. So here we are, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone. So now I'm going to discuss for the example 13b, where z is equals to negative 3 plus I. Step number 1, we have to locate the z in the diagram. So now the location of z is in the second quadrant. So we have negative 3 and 1. So this is the location. Next, we are going to find the modulus of the complex number. So where the modulus of z is equals to 9 plus 1. So finally, the modulus of z is equals to square root of 10. Step number 3 is to identify the theta. So here we have the theta. So here theta is equals to arctangent for b over a. In here the b is equals to 1 and the a actually is equals to negative 3. But in this case, we only consider the value and without the negative sign. So we have 1 over 3. So finally, theta we will have 18.43. Okay, the theta will be 18.43. So step number 4, we are going to find the argument of z. So where is the argument of z? The argument of z is the angle measured from the positive x-axis. So here is the beginning, and here is the argument of z. So what is the argument of z? So we will have pi, or we can say 180 degree minus 18.43 degree. So we will have 161.57 degree. So as I mentioned earlier, argument of z must be expressed in the form of radian. So our form of radian will be 2.82 radian. Do remember, we have to state the answer in 3 significant figure. So finally, in polar form, z will be equals to square root of 10 bracket cos 2.82 plus I sine 2.82. So here we are, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone. So now I'm going to discuss for the example 13C, where the z is equals to -5, -5i. First, identify the location. So in this case, the location of z will be in the third quadrant. So we have here -5, -5i. Second step is to find the modulus. So the modulus of z will be equals to square root of 25 plus with 25. So we will have square root of 50. So if we simplify the situation, we will have 5 square root of 2 for the modulus of z. The third step is to find the theta. So in this case, the location of theta is in the third quadrant. Okay, so theta will be equals to arctangent B will be equals to -5. So I repeat again, in this case we are only taking the value and without the sign. So in here we will have 5 over 5, which is equals to 1. The arctangent for 1 will be equals to 45 degree, or you can say it in the form of radian, pi over 4. Next, step number 4, we are going to find the argument of z. So in this case, where is the argument of z? Argument of z is the angle measured from the positive x-axis. So here we have a positive x-axis, and here we have the argument of z. So since it is a clockwise, so the angle will be a negative. So we will have a negative pi. Here we have pi over 4, so we need to add on pi over 4. So finally, our argument of z is equals to -3 pi over 4. So finally, in the polar form, z will be equals to 5 square root of 2 bracket cos -3 pi over 4 plus I sine -3 pi over 4. So here we are, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone. So now I'm going to discuss for the example 13D, which is 4 minus 3i. So step number 1, I'm going to locate the position in the Argand diagram. So it will located in the fourth quadrant. So here we have the z. Next, we are going to find the modulus of z. So in here, the modulus of z will be equals to square root of 4 squared, we will have 16, plus b squared, negative 3, we will have 9. So finally, the modulus of z is equals to 5. Next, we are going to find the theta. So here we have the location of theta. So theta will be equals to arctangent b over a. So in here, b is negative 3, but we only consider the value. So it becomes 3 over 4. So theta will be equals to 36.87 degree, or in the radian form 0.6435. So do remember, we only consider for 3 significant figure, so my answer would be 0.644. So now we are going to find the argument of z. So where is the location of argument of z? Do remember, based on the x-axis, this would be our argument of z. Then, based on the diagram, it is a clockwise. So the argument of z will be negative. So my final answer is negative 0.644 because of 3 significant figure. So finally, in a polar form, so our z will be equals to 5 bracket cos theta will be negative 0.644 plus I sine bracket negative 0.644 radian. So here we are, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, so now I'm going to discuss for the example 14. Given that z is equals to negative 3 plus 2i and w is equals to 1 plus 5i, where I is equals to cert negative 1. A. Express 1 over z plus with 1 over w. The question asks us to express 1 over z plus 1 over w in the form of a plus bi, where a and b are real number. So now I'm going to multiply the conjugate for negative 3 plus 2i. So we will have 1 over negative 3 plus 2i, and my conjugate will be negative 3 minus 2i over negative 3 minus 2i. Same as well for the right hand side, plus 1 over 1 plus 5i, and the conjugate will be 1 minus 5i over 1 minus 5i. Next, I'm going to expand. So we will have negative 3 minus 2i over 9 plus 4. Continue. 1 minus 5i over 1 plus 25. Simplify the situation, we will have negative 3 over 13 minus 2i over 13 plus 1 over 26 minus 5i over 26. So kindly rearrange the situation. So we have negative 3 over 13 plus 1 over 26 minus 2i over 13 minus 5i over 26. So after we simplify, we will have negative 5 over 26 minus 9i over 26. So that will be the answer for 1 over z plus 1 over w for example 14b. Express the conjugate of w in the polar form. So in here, the conjugate for W will be equals to 1 minus 5i. Step number 1, we are going to locate the position of conjugate of W. So in this case, the location is in the fourth quadrant. So here we have our conjugate of W. Next, we are going to find the modulus of the conjugate of W. So the modulus of conjugate W will be equals to 1 plus 25. So the modulus of conjugate W will be equals to square root of 26. Step number 3 is to find the angle or the theta. So in here, this will be the theta. So theta will be equals to arctangent B is equals to negative 5. Do remember, we only take the value. So here we have 5. So theta will be equals to 78.69 in a degree. If in radian, it will be 1.37. Do remember, we only take for 3 significant figures. So now we are going to find the argument of W conjugate. So where is the argument of the conjugate of W? So here will be the location, the argument. So in this case, the answer will be negative 1.37 radian. So finally, in polar form, the conjugate for W will be equals to square root of 26 bracket cos negative 1.37 plus I sine negative 1.37. So here we are, and thanks for watching.